Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 268. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V. And tonight, we're going to play a great game of charades. All right? So we're just going to act out the entire show as Johnny first wanted to bring it to you with a no audio version. Well, that would be a new one for us.
We have people that don't watch and they only listen, so I figured it would be kind of us to have people only watch and not listen. It was really strange. The application actually, for some reason, opened up twice, and so the one that I saw, and the way computers work, when something grabs your audio or video, I'm sure you've seen this with your cameras and such, that just like, it says, oh, something's already using your camera. Well, something was using our audio. It was the other program that it opened up behind it, closed it, saw it, restarted the stream. We're back and we're good to go.
Yeah, we'll show those guys at Fulcrum how to run a show, won't we? There's a reason we got replaced, Johnny.
Oh, man.
Gosh, all too easy here. Well, thank you guys for joining us here tonight. Of course, it is the Tuesday night just following up the conclusion of our final Innova Major, the USDGC. And, of course, first and foremost, congratulations to James Conrad and to all of those valiant chasers that made it such an amazing event and show.
I'd like to thank Hole 17 for giving us a show this year.
Ouch.
Man,
Stop.
That's a tough spot to be in. I've seen some arguments. I think we had this discussion last year.
We have it every year, and we'll probably have it every year until the whole changes.
Until someone lays up. Because I saw someone online basically say, well, why didn't you just lay up? And then there were other people that was like, well, he stuck to his game plan, and that's not what he practiced, and this and that. And all I thought was, you're a pro. You should be able to lay up and throw it on the island. If you didn't practice that shot, if you're any pro and didn't practice that shot, you've done yourself a disservice. It's like going to a hole and not just going to look at what the drop zone looks like. Like, oh, I'm not going to be there. Don't worry. I don't have to deal with that. Like, you should kind of be prepared. And if you don't do it during your warm-up day, let's say you're Nathan Queen, and yes, everyone goes into this event thinking you're going to, have a chance at it. But, yeah, there might be some people that are thinking, day 4, I'm probably not going to have to think about that. After day 3, walk over to hole 17 and be like, if I'm here with 4 strokes up, I should probably have this shot in my bag and throw it 8 or 10 times just so you have it down. So that's just, that's an easy pro tip for everyone out there. Make sure you practice that shot. I don't care what your game plan is. Your game plan can be to go for it every time. Just practice it for me. Just twice. Just put it in your bag.
Well, and here I'm going to slightly spoil an upcoming podcast of a competitor, so it's all fair in this case. Today I had Mo reach out to me from the inside line, and he said, hey, you have some great audio from a video from a number of years ago from the USDGC. Can I use some of that audio? I said, absolutely. He frequently talks about using our podcast as well as previous very early vlogs I've done in yesteryear. And it actually, at one point, gave me a little bit of chills today. He linked me to what is the Disc Golf Guy vlog 245. And it's the final 9 holes of the USDGC from 2014.
Wow.
And I had it, and here's the kicker, and this actually brought up so many more topics internally. One, that was the year that we had Disc Golf Planet still there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some Disc Golf Planet crew members filming right next to me and on the green, so it was live. I'll go ahead and say I don't know if that live footage will ever be seen again. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it's archived.
If it's even archived.
We don't know that it is. So that's one interesting side note, all right, is just that. 2, that was still in the early days. It was 2014, I believe, was the first year I started doing any form of shot-by-shot coverage at all. I remember thinking in March of that year, I think was the first time I'd ever done it, because I'd always go out to a course. I would walk around for 4 or 6 or 8 hours and film hundreds of shots looking for kind of highlight pieces that I would then put together with my vlog. Well, in early 2014, I tried shot by shot. I'm like, who in the world is ever going to want to watch 150-foot approach shot at the Memorial, like, for instance. And sure enough, fast forward all these years later, everybody wants to still see every single shot. I don't understand it. Well, that, however, was so early, though, I was commentating while I was filming yet. So we weren't in the world of, hey, go film an entire round and then later do post-production commentary. I literally was filming the action and talking into a microphone pointed back at me and calling it while it was happening. Those are the early days of some of the shot-by-shot coverage. And full disclosure, like, as Mo is talking about this situation, Johnny McRae is walking up to hole 17. He's taking that long walk from 16, sans mozzarella sticks, 16 that is, and we're walking up 17 up that same road that's there. His good friend Tony Inzano was there, and Don Smith was there, and we're all walking up and just seeing Johnny McRae's face, and then watching as we get over to hole number 17, and then watching it unfold. Infamously, one of those hole 17 final round debacles, for lack of a better term. And it gave me I watched it twice. It gave me all sorts of weird feelings today to watch that unfold again. And I didn't realize, I remember seeing it all. And I forgot that I was the one that was filming it. It's out there. It's vlog 245. If you even wanted, I don't know if you care. If you wanted to show it, those few moments, it was just incredible. And Johnny's reaction, and Johnny not getting it in bounds, and then what ensued after that. And then not only how crazy 17 was, spoiler, Macbeth gets on the island, so does Schusterek. Schusterek misses the putt, Macbeth makes it, and then it ties things up, and Johnny's behind both of them now after he had a 4-stroke lead going into that hole. And then more craziness on 18, and there's still a playoff that actually happens. Like, it's just incredible.
It's an epic finish.
Vlog 245. I was not out to pitch my vlogs or my old footage today, but when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Just ignore the very audible panting, because I remember hustling up, walking backwards, filming, these shots as we were walking up 17. And again, at that time, in order to do the commentary, the only mildly clever way I could do it that made sense, I had a microphone pointing back at me on my camera so that it would pick up my audio, so it wouldn't sound terrible. So even my breathing is very pronounced there, more than ever. So ignore that, but watch the end of vlog 245.
Oh, how far we've come.
Well, or not, if we're going to bring it all the way back to hole 17's debacles.
How far we've come.
Yes.
How far the players have not.
So just, it was crazy. So I don't know what Mo's putting together, honestly, for his podcast. I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. But
a heavy breathing compilation.
Yeah,
you,
Terry, Avery, yeah. All
Jamie
of the
Thomas
announcers throughout the years.
Kenny this weekend, I heard him some breathing on some of his commentary.
Yeah,
so it's just a weird ASMR heavy breathing compliment.
Disc golf commentary ASMR. Yes, I do think I should probably put that together. So, but hole 17, yes, is what sparked all of this conversation. Just crazy what it does, what it means, how fair is it or isn't it? How nothing is secure or sacred or final until hole 17, until you're on the green. Even then, you could go be whatever, but getting on that green is...
It's been a crazy week. Like, starting last week, we were on the air, and we had Simon come on. We had the whole thing with Ricky. We found out Ricky was going to be out for the season. USDGC starts. We get some live broadcasts. We'll talk about media stuff a little later. Great USDGC. And then suddenly, Eagle loses his temper, punches the ground, ends up with a boxer's fracture, I believe is what it's called. And now he's out for the year. USDGC finishes. Paul Macbeth takes like 63rd or 65th or something.
68th or
68th, somewhere around there, in the 60s. Didn't cash.
the first time in a decade?
In about a decade, other than the DNF that he had.
Yeah, I don't count that.
Find out that he messed up his ankle. He's out for the year. We are down 1, 2, and 3. The top 3 rated players. I think they're the top 3 rated. Either way, the 3 top players in our sport for the rest of the year. And honestly, with Ricky and Lyme disease, we've seen with Johnny McRae, he's had issues. We don't know what's in the future for Ricky. With Eagle, I've heard that those fractures can sometimes linger for months.
Sure.
And who knows what Paul's ankle issue is? It could be. He could be laid up for months. Now, thankfully, we have 5 months before the season starts, the next season starts. But, I mean, we're looking at a possibility of next year being really strange to start out with. I mean, I don't expect Eagle to be out. I don't expect Paul to be out, and I don't expect Ricky to be out. But we're in kind of an unknown time right now.
To see any one of those guys out is whether it's, taking a little bit of a break or, just skipping one random event here or there. We've seen all of that on any given moment. Rarely do you see more than one out of those 3 not at an event. And to have all 3 of them not be at the Hall of Fame this weekend and all not to be at the Pro Tour Championships, obviously, that in itself is just really big news.
We're going to have to talk to Jeff maybe next week to find out how that's all going to fill out
with the buys.
Because they have, those 3 guys are in the top 8, so they already have buys to the semis, I believe. And are those places just going to go unfilled? Are they going to bump everybody up because it's known beforehand? So maybe next week we'll get Jeff Spring on to explain exactly how that's going to go for the finale.
And don't sidestep. We also now have confirmed that AJ Risley is likely going. I mean,
AJ Risley will be out for the year, he said as well, with his wrist injury. He was throwing left-handed at USDGC for a while. Threw right-handed, I think the first round, and put up an okay score if I remember correctly, and then just couldn't keep up the pace and injury. So he'll be out, and who knows how long that might linger. And
yeah, I'll tell you real quickly. I had a brief conversation with AJ. He was, I hope he doesn't mind me telling the world, but he was really just internalizing and trying to come up with what was the next best move for him right now, knowing he's out of the USDGC. He didn't know if he wanted to have necessarily a part of the Pro Tour finale. The Pro Tour finale is unique in that if you're in and you pay $200, the entry fee, just for showing up and basically completing the round and being there as one of the qualified players, you're guaranteed a $400 payout. So you're guaranteed to make $200. Now, I can't speak highly enough of AJ when I say he, of course, thought about that for a moment, but then thought, I'm not healthy. I know I'm not likely going to get past the first round anyway. I should just, I'll say selflessly, give up the position to someone that is fully dedicated and wants to be there and plans on playing as much and as hard as they possibly can. And I will give a shout out to AJ for that reason, because he could, essentially just double his money, knowing it's well within the rules. Absolutely could do that. And he said he probably is just going to commit to Jeff Spring and the Pro Tour and saying, I'm not going to play. And then I know they're going to now filter in and let, another person in position come in and ultimately take his spot. So I think that's a very stand-up move by AJ. He thinks he's going to move himself from the East Coast where he is and get transitioned back over to the West Coast, get back home, homeland, home area, whatever you want to call it, home turf, and start that healing process. And he said, my wrist might be more of a 3-month healing than the 1 month I gave it. And so speaking to what you're just saying, it's undetermined. Of course, he's very excited about continuing his professional career. And if there's a time you've got 3 months to not play, it starts now.
Do it, AJ. Let's talk a little bit about USDGC results. I think that's kind of what everybody really wanted to see, and we got a good one, to be honest. It was exciting because, like I said, hole 17 at the end really brought everybody home, so to speak. Kept everybody in place. The first 3 days, scorching hot weather, record highs. The final day, everything cooled off and to the point where it was actually cold. And I don't know how much of an effect that had on the players. I know it was a lot more windy that final day because we saw the scores on that final day just plummet. Very few people were able to make a run of it. James Conrad ends up shooting a 2 over par to finish the event and ends up winning by 1 stroke. He had his issues on 17. He went OB 2 times and then put it on the island. Ends up taking a quadruple 7. Ouch. Quadruple bogey 7. Jeremy Colling shoots a 6 under par on his final round to bounce him up to tied for second with Nico LaCastro, who, I mean, I guess we haven't even gotten to that part yet, who the day earlier than that threw in for an albatross or a double eagle or whatever the nomenclature you want to use. I don't care. We're not gonna get into that tonight. But ultimately, Nico made a good comeback and fight, but he ended up 17 and 18 got him where he went double bogey, and tied Jeremy Colling for second place at 18 under par. Chris Clemens, same thing. 17 got him as well. He said he read the wind wrong. It was a headwind and it just knocked his discs down, and he took a quintuple bogey 8. So bogey X5, as I like to call it. Ends up shooting 17. Conrad or Clemens, what if games? You could ask what happens if they would lay up, but I understand Clemens. He thought he had to make a run with James ahead of him. It makes total sense. James, I don't quite have a good excuse as to why he felt like he needed to make it. Chris Dickerson, 5th place. Philo, 6th place. Alex Russell tied with Eagle McMahon for 7th place. And Eagle shot a 5 over par with 2 birdies. He threw 99% forehands. I think he literally had 1 backhand that entire round, and that was, I think, on hole 18. So props to Eagle for fighting that out rather than, I don't think as much as I'm sure the 7th place money is nice, the $1,700 or whatever he got, I don't think that was the motivating factor for not DNFing and taking 0. I think he just literally thought, go ahead and give it a chance. Either way, that's a lot of gumption, and shout out to Eagle as well for taking, I'll say, manning up and admitting his faults and mistakes with what he did, losing his temper. I think he's learned an expensive and valuable lesson there. Nathan Queen, unfortunately, shoots a 4 over par on the final round. Just started out really rough. And then tied for 10th place, we have a 4-way tie with Adam Hammis, Joel Freeman, Nate Sexton, and Albert the Bazooka, or Grenade. I heard he threw a grenade at one point. Tam. Everybody kind of, if you look at Sexton and Tam, each had their own individual rough holes. Sexton with a 10 on hole 9, and Albert Tam with an 8 on hole 12. So that kind of rounds out your top 10.
Wow. Sorry, I didn't necessarily see that with Sexton. Well, I guess you don't even have to scroll down to tell me that it was a bunch of OBs.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
That's exactly what it's going to be. Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. I had not necessarily seen that earlier.
If you want to watch it, it's on the Jomez coverage, which he had to commentate over his own 10. I think he had just was done at that point. Like, he knew nothing was happening, and sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. This course is brutal. It's a unique course in our sport, and I know there's a lot of opinions about it. In fact, I have an opinion about it that we'll get into later.
There's no doubt that every single year, as we get newer fans and newer spectators and newer players to the game, there's going to be just this new set of expectations and surprises, as well as just as question marks, bewilderment. People, it's fair to say that when you get there, if you're relatively new or you've played almost anywhere else, you get to the USDGC, and the first 3 letters you probably say out loud are, huh? Like, there's a lot of really, really distinguishable, unique features and rules and design to that course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many of them. And I think it's fair that a new person sees it and is maybe a little bit baffled or bewildered.
Well, I was thinking this through over the past couple days, and I've been on a lot of social media, and there's been more, I think, this year, more backlash to the course itself than I have seen in the past. Part of it is the OB, the fact that it was very hard to see on camera, whether it was the live or the post. People were very confused as to when someone threw, if it was in or out, because there was just stakes. There was not the elevated rope.
Mm-hmm.
And even the elevated rope, sometimes it can be difficult. But I'm wondering, and I think I've said this before about other things, that is our sport getting so many new players that the prestige of that course is withering away? Or for the viewers, not necessarily the players. I think everybody, when you play that course, and I've been fortunate to try to qualify one time, so I got to play it one time. But if you've never been there and you're a new player and you're walking up or watching this event on live or Jomez or Spin or whomever's filming it, I wonder if there is gosh, what's with all the different rules? I can't tell if that guy's OB.
They're throwing from where? Why? When?
He's got to throw
Which
from there
time?
again? Like,
he doesn't get to move?
Like, I wonder if there's an erosion of the prestige of this course that we have seen for the last 21 years. I'm not sure what to take of it. And there's been some people that have been very vocal online, as people are, and there are some people that defend the course. I don't know the right answer. I know there are things about this course I hate. I've said it before. There are things about this course I think are great. Hole 18 is one of the best laid out holes, one of the best finishing holes. I have a slight issue with the landing zone off the drive. I think it's a little. I've seen what I feel are almost perfect shots just randomly get up and roll. Like, you land in what you feel is, or what looks to be, the perfect spot right next to somebody, but your disc kind of just says, boop, pops up and rolls down out of bounds. I just have a slight, things like that bother me. And I understand we're going to always have randomness in our sport. You could, as we saw, I think with Nico, you can throw a perfect drive, hit those bricks right underneath of a basket, get up and roll out of bounds. I understand. But these discs hit nothing, and just maybe they come in just a hair too tight or a hair too. I mean, it just seems a little random on 18. But I like the finishing hole. I truly do. I don't like stroke and distance, and I've said it for years that I just think it needs to be gotten rid of. And I go out and say, if stroke and distance isn't gotten rid of, I don't like this as a major. Like, it just, if you need to, and I understand that's part of the appeal of hole 17. Like, you have to throw down the island. You have 3 chances, or you go up to the drop zone. Like, you can't just leave it on one hole. If you get rid of it, it's got to be gotten rid of, because then our ratings will start counting again for this course. It'll feel a little bit more natural. I don't love the hazards and stuff, but at least those are in the rules. You can do that according to the rules with whatever exemptions we get from the PDGA. But as long as there's stroke and distance out on this course, it's just always going to be an XM.
Well, and now I have not downloaded. I'll be the first to admit, with not being there for a couple of years, I didn't download the caddy book. 13 is treated as the same, correct? 888 hole. You must land on that island, otherwise you're rethrowing, or do you get to actually move up and it's treated like a? You have to land on it. That much, I believe, is the case. But do you? I don't know if you can take it where it was last inbounds bringing it up to the edge or not. I don't honestly even recall. That's one of I think that's one of the legitimate challenges out there. Maybe what you're saying is
there are so many different rules for different holes that you just don't know unless like you walk up and throw out of bounds. You almost have to check the caddy guide every time. Like, oh, this hole is. And
well, there's a red stake here, or there's a yellow stake there, but wait, there's a white one. But is there a line? Is there not? Like
that's
throughout all of the years, all of these different indicators. Again, they're trying to make it as crystal clear as possible, but ultimately it's incredibly confusing to a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't think the rules for the players are vague. No one is confused as to what to do once you read the caddy guide. The problem is for viewers, unless your commentators are telling the people the rules for every single hole, then it's not viewer friendly. That's one of my main complaints. I think I said it last year. I think I said the same thing last year. It's not viewer friendly. It's confusing. It's a major.
That I think is fair.
I don't think that. I don't like that about this particular event. I think some of the holes. I love the new hole 1, old hole 3.
Sure.
I love the next hole.
Mhm.
I even like the new hole 3, the which I know a lot of people didn't like. The big long one to the double Mando. I don't mind that one. I don't like the new 4, the double as they called it. I love 5 where it's at. And now that they got rid of that Mando, where you don't have to go over the water.
I still saw the flag there.
Is it? I thought someone said they got rid of it. But
I could have swore I still saw the flag there on hole number 5.
Well, regardless if it's there or not, I like the hole. There's a lot of good holes out there. I just think there's some things that
there's certainly one thing it does, as everyone's saying on the board, and as we saw this week. It always creates drama. The question is, how do you want that drama to get there? How do we arrive at that solution? Clearly, what they've been doing has given us plenty of drama throughout the years. It's just a matter of, is it in a fashion that you necessarily like? And not being dramatic, but one of the interesting side notes that I hope most of the disc golf community saw, because I think it is important for our sport, is seeing Arby's this weekend play into the mozzarella stick concept that is, when these pillars or posts or guardians or whatever name you want, tall squirrel perches, I don't care what you want to call them, whatever they are. It was funny to see Arby's at some form of corporate level, or whoever's at least running their social media. Maybe it's a 13-year-old in his basement that Arby's just contracts out. I don't know. But whoever it is, it was, again, USDGC took it in good stride.
That's great.
As they should. It was awesome to see Arby's get in on it. And I feel like that helps make a much bigger connection to the outside world when someone like that can poke a little fun, the event can take it, and I think it just benefits everybody.
I agree. I think feeding into that social media push by an outside company is phenomenal. And I know they're local Arby's, but I know Arby's has had some interaction with disc golf in the past, with down in Texas. So
sure.
But I believe that's more of a regional establishment and not the overall Arby's social media. I've come to not hate the sticks, the pillars of justice, as I kept hearing referred to, which I just shook my head at.
In no way, shape, or form would I
no, but that's what
consider that.
I think that's what Jamie Thomas kept calling
that's
them
fine.
On 16 or an 8. I forget which ones he called them. Either way, I've grown not to hate them as much. I still don't love them. I hated what we were referring to as the cheese curds, the big giant bales that were on 14. I just think they look silly. They look silly. And I think
those are the grandpappies of the hay bales that are ultimately placed on hole number 17.
The mamas and the papas?
Yeah.
I hate
the
look.
Those cheese curds get together, and then we have
cheese sticks.
Yeah.
I don't like the look of it at all. It's not appealing to me.
Well, and
that's me. And again, this is a personal opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of people are fine with them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that, of course, the event we know is constantly looking for ways to challenge the players, to take a piece of property that I think can be agreed upon by everyone is not ideal in terms of creating a technically challenging course, and hence why we've had rope from day one, why we continue to see Mandos, why we continue to see the various T-pads, the changing of the pin placements throughout the years, the entire removal and addition of holes throughout the years, all those types of tweaks that continue to happen. They're trying to utilize that Winthrop University property as best as they possibly can, and we get that, we understand. I
can't argue with trying to, like, there are a lot of people that are saying, well, you need to move the course to a more professional and world-class area. I get that sentiment, but I also understand that's very close to Innova's home. It is
literally a few miles from Innova's headquarters.
It is so easy for them, well, easy's in quotes, for them to be able to staff that because everybody's local. You don't have to travel a half hour, 45, or an hour to a different course, which would make it so much more difficult. And you have a university with Winthrop that wants us there. It's hard to pass that up. It's hard to say, well, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We've been there for 20 years, and they have welcomed us. So I would, and I don't know if it's possible. I don't know what we have access to. I hope that we see a little bit of change in the course over the next, and we will, because the course is constantly changing. I just think there are some design things that could be adjusted, and that's...
Well, I think the infrastructure is going to make that course very difficult to ever move away from because of everything that's there and available to us. Thank you, Ace Run Productions. I appreciate it. We appreciate it, who has just super chatted us. Because of those the infrastructure components, with the clubhouse, with the parking, with everything that is there, with the gallery-friendly atmosphere, to have what we have out there, in order of people with a truck. I said it multiple times this weekend. There are very few other tournaments. I can't think of I can only maybe think of one, at least on the Pro Tour.
Fountain Hills?
Yep. Where or Vista, maybe, where you could potentially drive that transmission truck around. Like I kept joking about trying to take that truck out to hole 3 or 4 at Maple Hill and let me know how that goes. All right. You're not getting that truck through there. So there are so many advantages, and Winthrop, like you said, has been so good and has been a partner in this process for the 21 years that they've been there. I recognize and value all of those things. Like I said, the clubhouse and everything else. I don't see it moving from there. I think it's just a matter of what will they do to continue to be as creative as possible, but stick within the realm of still putting on a professional golf event. And as we all know, as the opinions out there will continue to blast loud and clear by every side, they love it, they don't, and everything in between. We'll see what kind of feedback continues to push us forward.
And like I said earlier, I mean, I don't love it, but I can handle the random rolls on hills. Those things happen. We see it at Masters Cup every year at De La. I get that. I'm okay with that. I just want the event to be spectator friendly for live, for post, and in person, and I want them to abide by all PDGA rules so that these rounds count to your rating. This is one of the most important events of the year. It's a major. The fact that it doesn't count against your rating is a little silly in my eyes. So
it kind of blows my mind.
It does. So I think if they could get those two things down, I don't want to say I don't care about all the extra like circusy kind of stuff, the obstacles, but I could take those with a little bit more grain of salt. I just think those are my two big beefs with the event and the course.
Like an Arby's roast beef?
Maybe like an Arby's
beef
roast
and cheddar? You're a ham and Swiss guy. I know.
I'm not so much a roast beef guy.
Chicken cordon bleu. I know. Okay. So, all right. So that's a segue. We can move away from that for now. I do want to quickly mention, I did reach out to James much earlier today. I said, we'd love to have you. The Smashies would love to hear from you. If there's any way you can make it possible to join us, that would be great. I see that he saw the message, and unfortunately, I didn't get a response. The kids still say ghosting. Maybe he ghosted me.
Ghosting is usually, I think, when you actually respond,
acknowledge first and then later.
And then
okay, so he didn't. He pre-ghosted me.
He did. He pre-ghosted me. My guess.
He's busy and doing stuff. Yeah,
he's an outdoorsy.
I did reach out to him. Unfortunately, of course, he would make the most sense to have here, but he is. He's not going to be, as far as I know of, unless something pops up, he's not going to be joining us. But that does segue, as we were just talking about the ratings, and I would love to see them. Ratings came out today. It's one of those days. I know they do them on Tuesdays, so we have something to talk about every week.
Did anything weird happen with the ratings?
Well, that's the question, right? So Paul McBeth moves to the new highest rating ever of all time in disc golf, and it comes, just the timing of it coming 3 days after he has one of the worst weekends in his professional career.
Which don't count against the ratings.
And they don't count against his rating. Now, I don't even know if his first round standard deviation, cosine, tangent, I don't know. I don't even know if his first round would have anyway.
It would not have counted.
Okay, because he shot 988. However, his other rounds would have, and they would have been, I think, double weighted per normal ratings, the way that works.
But that
he would not have hit that 1060 today.
Are you sure those would not have
carried to the next rating? No, they shouldn't have.
They would have. They would.
I believe they're a little more instant. Usually there was a 2-week window, and I can only speak to that because I played an event on Sunday, and it counted in my rating that updated today. So Paul finishing a major on Saturday, also it would have then updated. So it's understandable why the world could be confused if they didn't know this. They wake up today and they're like, "Wait a minute, Paul, 1060 just had the worst weekend of his life." Again, huh? I'm just saying, unless you're in the know, you're baffled by that. It doesn't make sense at face value. Now, as we just discussed, your ratings do not count. You could have shot 4 1100 rated rounds. Doesn't matter. It's not going to help your rating. It doesn't matter what happens there because of the X rating that is placed with this major.
Are you saying USDGC is X-rated?
It was this year. Hey. So first, congratulations to Paul, of course, on this tremendous feat. There's no question about that.
Take those old discs that Discraft just sold you and just burn them. They're worthless. The ones that had, like, was it 1059 on them?
Please, I mean,
please, nobody cares about that number. 1060 though. Next week when the 1060 discs come out, buy all of them.
I will be the first to say I only heard of Paul's secondhand. So I did not see what anyone else really moved to whatsoever, but Paige Pierce is at 980.
Still. That's what she was at before.
Oh, yeah. No plus or minus there.
So the question is here. So let's say you bought a Paul McBeth. Jeez. Sorry. Paul McBeth 1059 rate disc. I think that's what his last one was. Did he scope 1 point or 2?
Something like that.
1058, 1059. And you said, it's a wall hanger. Boop. When he hits 1060 and that disc comes out, do you just replace that one and then actually throw the 1058? Does it lose all value? Like that one is, I can throw it now, but I've got the 1060 disc on my wall.
Yeah, I mean, talk about old, antiquated, old, outdated, all of those things. Yeah, garbage, clearly.
Well, they're still good throwers.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I'm just wondering, do you take it off the wall and just be like, oh, well, look at this, I can throw it now? That's pretty cool.
So,
anyway.
Congratulations. And then also, of course, Paige Pierce, maybe no surprise, with what she's been doing this year, remains our top-rated FPO player at 980, which is incredible. So let's take the ratings now and bring that back around to USDGC placing and or shocks and surprises. Because with how tough it is there, with all of those rules, with the conditions, everything, and just the sheer talent of that very, very deep field, how crazy is it to see who didn't cash? And this is by no means any knock on anyone, but talk about who didn't cash just to bring that all home as to how difficult this event really is.
So Terry wants to call some people out. So let's call out some people who didn't cash. Missing cash by a single stroke. Getting the big hug for this particular
he's
episode.
going to get a real good one from me.
Austin Turner.
Okay.
Austin Turner. Sorry, one stroke. I'm sure you can't think of any places to pick up one stroke. Former USDGC champion, Steve Brinster. Peter McBride. Shooting an 11 over par his final round to take him from -3 to +8, dropping him 18 spots. Simon Lizotte, probably arguably the number 3 or 4 rated player in the world. Or not rated, but player in the world. Ranked.
Sure,
Thank you. That's
whatever.
what I'm looking for. Someone I was surprised about, Zach Melton. This course is advantageous for lefties. I would have picked him to do much better there. Of course, as we talked about, Paul Macbeth. You mentioned him earlier, Johnny McRae, who's been in the he shot an 11 over par, dropped 22 spots to be out of cash. Colton Montgomery. And now Jordan Castro. Thanks for not racking up my bill too much this past week.
Ouch, too soon.
He's James
on
for
the
charity,
board, bro.
I know
Too
he is.
soon.
I love me some Jordan.
Ouch.
He cost me $19, which is fantastic. I wish he would have cost me a lot more. But Jordan Castro did not cash. Grady Shue didn't cash, but thankfully he's got something else looking forward to in a couple weeks. He's getting married.
He's cashing in on marriage. If that's a thing.
That's weird.
It's only weird if you want it to be.
I know. Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar. Those are I think the last two I'll probably talk about. Neither of which were probably predicted to cash based on their rating and the field.
Sheer rating, yep.
But I find it funny that they tied 4 rounds. Kristen actually shot a +5. Paige, no, I'm sorry, they did not tie. I was looking at the wrong one. 99th and 100th.
Yeah, because you're messing up Kristen Tatar with Tristan Tanner.
With Tristan Tanner
which
right underneath
I
of it.
referenced a dozen times, saying at quick glance when you see those two names, you're like, your mind just kind of has to really focus.
Blurred them together for me. I'm
Trust
sorry.
me.
Either
Been
way,
there, done that.
99th and 100th. Paige shot a 16 over par on her final round. Kristen Tatar shot a 5 over par on her final round. So 99th and 100th place. Interesting. It just goes to show how difficult and unique this course is that you see this type of separation and spreading of the scores. Like, I would never have guessed to see. I mean, I understand Paul with his injury, but I would have never guessed Simon to do that. Like, that's a kind of a shock to me. And it's
well, to see him take the 10 on his second to last hole on hole 17 again, taking him from I don't even know if you want to postulate 5, give him a double bogey, so give him 5 strokes back, and where does he finish instead?
He would be at 3 over par. He would be in the cash and 43rd.
Okay, so yeah. It is incredible, and I was actually just taking a look as well. I mean, when you sort them strictly by rating, you see Kristen Tatar came in as the 4th lowest rated player, and you see Paige Pierce come in as roughly the 8th lowest rated player. It's ratings clearly give you, I feel like, that great snapshot and that idea. And you can argue about, the fine details and the intricacies and the tiny little minute differences and such. But you're not likely to see someone 950 show up and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to, I'm going to perform because I only throw 325 perfectly controlled and I'm a decent putter. They're not going to show up and be like, yeah, I'm just going to, round out the top 20. Like, it's just not going to happen at a course like that. Paige Pierce did make a post, actually, just shortly before our podcast tonight, and she kind of addressed it because we all know her. She constantly talked about her number one goal there was just to cash, to find herself inside the cash line. She came up a bit short of it, and then today she made a post, which now is gone from my Facebook. I was going to kind of quickly read it. All right, I apologize. I can't find it.
That's too bad.
She was talking about how difficult it is at that course. She said that there was not a moment when you can relax mentally. It required a bunch of different shots, and just basically that you are always challenged out there for all of the rounds. And I think that's a really good way to sum up that entire course. At no point are you comfortable.
Yeah, I think you see that with every player says that. There's not a spot where you probably can relax. I could see if you're a lefty, maybe hole 16 is the one spot where you can walk up and go, all right, this is not the hardest shot in the world. Just throw a hyzer. But for the most part, it is brutal and grueling out there. And it's a fun event to watch. It adds, again, lots of drama, phenomenal drama, I guess is just the word I want to think. Yeah, wow. I'm going digging deep into the thesaurus again for that one.
It's like there's a lot of drama.
There might be some drama.
All right. I feel
like we're stumbling through this podcast.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, to wrap things up on the injury updates, I'll start with Ricky. Of course, we talked about him last week. He, had made the point that he was withdrawing from the rest of the events, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, a lot of people really wanted to, and I know there's some love. It's laced with love as everybody reaching out and or getting worked up about how Ricky should be handling his Lyme disease situation, this flare-up, whatever I guess it's technically called. I understand all of that. Of course, some people took it too far and wanted to go too hard, and I'm sure we're just flat-out jerks about their views, their thoughts, and their opinions. And I get it. Everybody's a doctor. If you have Facebook, you're essentially a doctor. And I get that there's some people that chimed in that really did know what they were talking about, mixed in with plenty of people who didn't. Ricky has, I think, heard everyone loud and clear, both sides or all sides. And he made a post today saying that he's feeling even better than he did the day before. He feels like he's on the mend, so on and so forth. So there's your update on Ricky. Unbeknownst to us or unknowingly, when we pulled in Simon last week for the after show, we truly had no idea where Simon was going. He just said, hey, there's something I want to talk about. Can I come on, the show? We said, sure. And then, well, Simon had his own thoughts as well. All fine and dandy. Eagle talked a little bit about, I'll say a little bit more almost from an emotional side. I did see a little bit of an Instagram live from him, and he said he was going to make a post. But he talked about how introverted he is by nature, how sometimes he has some anxieties out on the course or in big crowds and galleries and such. And he also said how, and I'm just paraphrasing, but he also said seeing comments, seeing people be on the internet and do internet things isn't great for a lot of people's self-esteem either. He really appreciates.
He said that before in the past.
Yeah, the love and the support he gets. He also says, I'm saying so many words, I'm not a big fan of you guys being jerks either. Unfortunately for Eagle and for
you have to take the good with the bad.
The culture, that's out there. Last night's news with Paul, and so of course we wish Eagle well. Like you mentioned earlier, who knows how long that's really going to take. And I do love, as you mentioned, how much he owned up to the fact that it was a mistake that he made, and he felt, as he said in this particular live stream, he felt like this might be what he really needs to give him a harsh wake-up call, is how he worded it. And we have to remember, he is still very young with a lot of pressure on him under a microscope, and scrutiny is coming in at him. As much as the praise and accolades are, scrutiny is all around him with his every move, whether it's a fashion choice or a music choice or an eating choice. Like, personally, like, I guess I do get challenged about my eating choices too, but not to the degree he does. He's constantly badgered along with the accolades he gets. He's constantly badgered. And I can understand how certainly that can add up.
I hope he takes the off season and finds a different way to express frustration. There are so many ways that you can be frustrated without punishing your body, so to speak, because he's not the first. We saw Barry Schultz a couple of years ago at the Memorial punched the ground in his mini, I believe it was, and screwed up his wrist.
Yeah, he withdrew from the event. This is like almost 6, 8, 10 years ago now. He ended up withdrawing from the event, and I think his follow-up stand-up move is he was out there spotting later that week, but he had to withdraw from the event because he did the exact same thing.
Did someone punch a tree?
That was one of our superstars in Wisconsin.
Aaron. Yes, Aaron Wild. We had a local kid who, phenomenal disc golfer, questionable person. Just
putting it out there.
Just putting it out there. He's much better now. But when he was young,
legally correct by saying that.
When he was much younger, he punched a tree and like broke his hand.
He did the same.
These are things that need to be addressed. If they're like I've said, I've seen Paul Macbeth fold putters in half. Great, you can buy a new putter. We've seen Paul slap putters.
I've seen discs ripped in half by people.
Yeah, I've seen people rip discs in half. I don't care. It may look childish when you do something like that, but if you're not distracting the rest of the group and you're not harming yourself, I don't care. I've seen people rip minis in half, fold them up or whatever, and those are just things that need to be addressed. There's no reason to risk your career on a single shot, like a single
of
miss.
Course, yeah. Or if you're going to do it, at least punch with your left. You're not throwing
exactly
hand, right. Is that the pro tip we're going for
pro
here?
Tip. It's like when you reach into the pond to grab your disc, you do it with your offhand.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. If you want to punch, you do it with your offhand.
Exactly. And then so an update on Paul that came in last night. It must have been around 10:30 or so, at least my time. I remember seeing it shortly after it was posted. And for the first time, I think publicly, we saw Paul make mention of possibly what was an ailment or serious condition for him this weekend at the USDGC. And now some people are saying, that makes perfect sense. And naturally, the opposite side is saying, oh, what a whiny baby, he's making this up.
He's making
and everything in between.
For poor play.
Of course, and everything in between.
And to be fair, it is an excuse for poor play, but it's a legitimate excuse.
Justified
it's a justified excuse.
Sure.
I'm going to take Paul at face value because I don't believe he's ever really lied to us that his ankle is screwed up somehow. And whether that directly affected his throws, because you did see people out there saying, I saw him throwing. It didn't look like there was any problem. First of all, if you have an injury, even if it doesn't necessarily directly affect your throw, it might mentally affect your throw.
Certainly.
If you're thinking about laying, not quite putting all your pressure on your leg, it could mess up your timing. Or there are 100
or if you're
going to
overextend an arm or something like that,
yep.
And you're like, you see sometimes, and I unfortunately have done it myself as well lately. You just slightly hold back. Maybe you don't follow through the way you really think you need to or you should, and next thing you know, you're always thinking about those types of things. Whether, like you said, it's directly happening at the moment, or it's just in the back of your head.
Exactly. I mean, we don't know how it affected Paul, but clearly, I think it had an effect. I'm just hoping that it's not a lingering issue and that it's something that he can clear up if he needs to see a specialist or just a doctor, that we can get this cleared up before the beginning of next year, because having any of those three guys out for any amount of time is miserable for the sport.
I think miserable is overstating it.
No, I think it is. I think you take any of those guys out and it doesn't feel like whoever wins this Hall of Fame this weekend, I kind of feel...
Oh, you're throwing out the asterisk already.
A little bit. I mean, you kind of
You're taking out the three best players in the world. I understand what you're saying.
It doesn't feel like a national tour event because you don't have the three best players in the world. It's a national tour. Whoever wins, if they shoot, 3 1100 rated rounds, phenomenal. But there's always going to be that question like, yeah, but you didn't have to beat those guys.
Yeah. Well,
and you're still going to beat a ton of great players. I'm saying the sport is miserable without them. Like,
wow.
There's so much missing without the three best players.
You sound like their agent. Are you doing more for them than their agent?
If I am, I'll take the 10%.
I agree. It definitely, there's a void, there's an emptiness there, and everyone will naturally say, especially when the three of them are out. If one of them's out, everybody can be like, oh, well, but you didn't beat so-and-so. When all three of them are out, and so then that begs the question is, who's going to step up? Who's going to be like, hell yeah, this is my time.
This is the time for Simon.
Time to cash in.
This is Simon's time. I mean, Conrad just got his major. Simon has had national tour wins, pro tour wins. But ultimately, and I guess I necessarily wouldn't call the Hall of Fame a Simon course, but he's great with a disc. Kevin Jones. This would be a great event for Kevin Jones to step up and
Chris Dickerson.
And because regardless if they're not there, Chris Dickerson as well. Getting a win like this can help boost your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can always say, well, yeah, I shot 3 1,100 rated rounds. Those guys weren't going to beat me anyway. It is a confidence booster going into the next season. So I think that it could be a great opportunity for one of our top players to really take the reins and maybe make that next step.
Well, I will quickly read off by rating our top few competitors for this weekend on the MPO side. Chris Dickerson, Simon Lizotte, Nate Sexton, Calvin Heimberg, James Conrad, Kevin Jones, Vino Makala, Double G, Michael Joe, Joel Freeman, Nico Castro, Greg Barsby, and Seppo, so on and so forth.
I mean,
honestly, we know any one of those people, and even a few down the list from there, are all capable of taking this down this weekend. It's just a matter of, scratching off that lottery ticket at just the right time. Like, go out. You got to play well. And it's not to say it's lucky, but go out and maybe punch that ticket or punch that card, whatever. I don't know. There's a cliche in there somewhere about going out and taking and just taking full advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you, that you may not have 3 extra people that you have to get out in front of this weekend. So leave it in the notes. We'd love to see, who do you guys think on the MPO side will take things down this weekend? Go ahead and pull it in there and punch it up on our YouTube chat, as so many of you guys are following along and taking a look at. Maybe we'll have a legitimate
Did you
dark
really
horse.
just say punch it up?
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have a legitimate dark horse. Like, Lady Gaga and A Star Is Born. I don't know. Like, maybe somebody. Can you think of anyone that you'd be like, wow, like maybe this could be their breakout event?
You could say this was a good event, I think, maybe for an Adam Hammis,
who's played well there before with the World Championships back in 2017.
I think he would be a pretty good dark horse to kind of make that next step. This would be an event where normally I would probably pick James Conrad, but having just won a major, that's a tough hangover, so to speak, to go to the very next weekend and take down a national tour. So, not that it's saying he can't do it. I just think the pressure might be a little great, and maybe Conrad doesn't feel that pressure.
Maybe he's turning that pressure into sheer confidence.
He's a pretty cool, calm, collected kind of guy.
So, well, it will be awesome to see this weekend. Looking forward to it. I'm going to also throw out a plug right now. We're going to have some ridiculous giveaway here tonight. We're also looking at a really solid live stream, live viewer count right now. I confirmed a little earlier today with my pal Steve over at MVP that MVP is going to step up and be a significant supporter of the FPO coverage I'm doing this weekend. FPO lead card, feature lead card over the 3 rounds.
The winner tonight gets a signature MVP disc.
Better than that. How about an portable basket? Yeah, that's right. Tonight, we're going to give away a portable basket. No purchase required. You do have to send a self-addressed stamped envelope in, though, to us. No, seriously, stick around. We will give away a portable basket that will get drop shipped to your door thanks to MVP. They are stepping up big to help with the coverage this weekend. I'm super excited to do it. They've been a big supporter of a lot of stuff I've done throughout the years, and they're again supporting me for the FPO coverage this weekend. I'm going to have a giveaway for every single one of the videos I put out. We're going to have an extra giveaway probably next week, but I think tonight we're going to be able to give away a portable disc golf basket thanks to MVP. So that's pretty huge. I think that's pretty cool. We got a nice gallery for tonight. You guys should enjoy that little free basket action. All right, so I think we've gotten almost everything, a lot of the major stuff covered. Pardon the pun, I guess, but we've talked about Eagle, Ricky, Paul, Arby's. These are all some notes I actually wrote down. Nico's Albatross, touching on that quickly. I know you mentioned it. Obviously a phenomenal shot. Most would argue that his celebration was maybe even almost funnier or more impressive than the shot.
He jumped off a tree. That was pretty sweet.
I mean, that was pretty solid. Now
threw a hat.
Yep. Yelling and screaming, running it down, all of it. All right. There were then, of course, it was chopped up a bunch of times, for a lot of different social media posts and such not, and reposted, and I loved all that. Is there a little bit of, I don't know if irony is quite the word. If I recall hearing one of the posts, it's right before he throws. Does Kenny say something like he's taking this, he knows how important this shot is, so he's taking a little extra time? I feel like that's what I heard Kenny say.
Maybe. I mean, Nico was notorious for taking extra time.
That's the irony here. It's like,
I know.
All of the shots out there are very important. That shot turned out to be, not exactly life-changing, but obviously an amazing shot. Just a little bit of humor to me in Kenny mentioning he's taking a little extra time. Nico ran out of a little extra time in like 2006. And I love the guy, but like you said, he is full-blown notorious for not necessarily hitting that 30-second time limitation.
Somebody said it was 1 minute and 27 seconds.
137, I saw.
137 from the time he marked his disc to when he actually threw. I'm going to go back and retroactively stroke him for that, so I hope you don't mind, Nico.
So you got a 3.
So
just
sorry.
an eagle.
Sorry, buddy. No, but what a phenomenal shot. What a great way. I saw Philo throwing just a little bit of shade at the Albatross.
Oh, did he?
He did. He said something like, yeah, but, he could see the basket. All in good fun, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the, skip off of the pavement right into the basket. Good thing that cage got in the way. If not, I think it would have shot right out the other side of the green. But ultimately, a phenomenal shot. Something to remember. It's one of those shots that everybody... The funny part was, for you and I was watching the live stream. I think I called you or you called me. I got up. I walked around for a few minutes. I was talking to you. I come back and I'm like, oh, well, what's going on? Like, I see Nico sweating at the next hole. I'm like, well, that's weird. I'm like, wait a minute. I look at you, I'm like, he's got an Albatross. And Terry's like, really? I'm like, yeah. So I had to rewind it and watch it. It was a pretty cool thing, ultimately.
And what's funny about that particular hole is it's known, like 17, as usually the nightmare. Nobody walks away and be like, yeah, I loved me some 888 this year. Like, no one has really said that.
Probably
There's
not.
maybe been some people that have walked away 1 or 2 under par, or maybe par for the weekend, or a couple under, and been great with it. Sure, that's in their own personal memory bank. But you only hear of the horror stories, the nightmares, the disasters.
As Kenny was saying, hitting the curb on your approach shot.
I posted a memory from a number of years ago when Nate Doss was in the running to win the USDGC. He was right there on the lead card in the final day, and he walked away with a 10 on that hole. He followed it right back up with a deuce on hole 14, and as we were walking from 14 to 15, he smirks, gives me a smile as I'm filming him, and he's like, just 12 strokes and 2 holes, baby, and we're moving on, or whatever he said. And, he took it all with grace and dignity and pride and everything else, but it ended his USDGC run, as we talk about hole 17 can do. So to have so many of those thoughts conjured up and really based around 888, it's awesome to have this memory, because as someone else pointed out, you may now always remember the 888 hole as the one Nico two'd. Like, I feel like it single-handedly has flipped the perception of that hole on its head.
That is now Nico's hole.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way around it.
It's so congrats to Nico. Awesome to see, awesome to hear about. And we'd be remiss without saying, like, Nico brought it all this weekend and was right there to the very bitter end to almost reclaim a major title that he took down 10 years earlier.
10 years.
So that's incredible in itself. So
we do, in about 20 minutes, we're going to have Yuli on the show.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he decided.
What did he shoot this weekend?
That's awkward. I don't know. A gun?
Okay.
Shoot
Go ahead.
the breeze.
Okay. Now, good. We'll get a check-in with yet another injured guy on injured reserve.
That's kind of why I wanted to talk with him. We can kind of get an idea of what these guys are going to be going through and what they're looking for. But I think we would be remiss if we didn't beforehand. I don't think we need to bring Yuli in on our media discussion of the particular.
Perfect. And just before you do that, which actually this does go hand in hand with, as I was talking about Nico, someone had reached out to me and said, hey, is that, and I asked the same question, was that shot featured on SportsCenter? Was that a top 10? Somebody said, hey, can you get it submitted? And I just want to throw this out there generically again for everyone, because I do feel like it's helpful. When amazing shots like that happen, first of all, I'm glad we have someone covering it live. That, first and foremost, I think is awesome, because I can't imagine being like, hey, I can't wait to see that shot tomorrow. I heard about it. So I'm glad it was live. But also, when those happen, and whoever the content producer is, Spin, PDGA, YouTube, or Smashbox, Disc Golf Guy, Joe Mez, whoever, doesn't matter. That clip needs to get out, and it needs to get hashtagged SC Top 10, SportsCenter Top 10. That's really our best way of ever getting any great shots to be featured. We don't necessarily submit them to a person or a magic man behind the curtain and say, hey, here's something really cool. They really thrive on the idea that the protocol is a better word. The protocol is really, it has to get out there, and then it just has to get shared and talked about. That's when ESPN, at that point, really shows their interest, is once there's a little bit of buzz that it's going around. So I just wanted to, reiterate that to everyone, that it's not really so much of just a submitting it. It kind of used to be that way, almost, and now it really is more so, I think, more than ever. It's really focused on that hashtag. So I just wanted everybody to know about that. But Nick Newton. Nick Newton aced the first hole of the USDGC, his first time here, his first time competing. And then someone said that it made an ESPN Snapchat countdown in maybe first or second spot. I did hear that. As always, any recognition, to that scale on social media is great. I don't know of anything that came of Nico's in terms of worldwide promotion, unless somebody can correct me. I didn't hear of it. I wish it would have, because obviously it should have been, but it doesn't sound like that it was. So SC Top 10, that's how those great shots, usually aces, would then get featured. As in this case, I think they'd make an exception for the albatross that came in. So putting it out there. All right, media.
Pay-per-view. We had it this year. It's been a while, probably 6 years maybe since the last pay-per-view for USDGC. The live broadcast, we had Spin TV doing post-production. We had Jomez doing chase card post-production. I was thoroughly happy with how the production went. I think that we saw really phenomenal production on all avenues of the media. I thought that Hannah and JT did very, very well. Champ came in, did really, really well. Needed some pants, but, Champ put on some pants. It's a little weird when Jamie...
I knew I'd hear that on our podcast eventually.
Yeah, I know. Champ put on some pants. It just he looked out of place. I thought it was funny because on the day one, he came in off the course. I get that. Days 2 through 4, or I'm sorry, day 2 technically. So days 3 and 4, not coming off the course, really. I know he was out there riding around, but I think he needs to throw the pants on for the booth.
Pretty minor in the grand scheme of things.
Of course,
I'll say
I've
this:
given him a
I
hard
wouldn't have
time.
wanted to be in pants.
It was.
I'll say that
those first two.
It was 98 degrees.
I agree, but I think there is a level of professionalism that you kind of need to portray.
I would have loved to see him in some Zubas. They're on a couch. Put him in some good South Carolina or Florida striped Zubas. That's what I would have liked to see.
All right, if that's what you want to see.
I'm just saying. I mean, they're pants.
Your world, Tara. No, ultimately, I thought everybody did a really good job. We saw the live broadcast, the pay-per-view. Jamie Thomas said on their second day broadcasting that their first day broadcasting had like 2,200 concurrent viewers. Not bad at all. I don't know how accurate that is or numbers higher or lower. I have to assume that it's probably pretty close. I'm really hoping that we do hear a final number of either the number of paid or maybe number of concurrent viewers that we got to see on Saturday. I think that could really inform a lot of the media as to possible future potential for this stuff, or what went to the Edge program versus, whatever. Was it 5,000? Was it 8,000? Was it 3,000? I don't know any of the answers to that. I know they had a rough start of it on that final day. My understanding was the broadcast truck was having an issue. It was the exact thing that we warned that we had talked about last week with putting kind of all your eggs in one van. Having the cell signal from the cameras go from the van to the booth. And we saw that with all the spectators that final day surrounding the lead card, people out there streaming and doing Instagram and whatever other things they're doing on their phone. It caused a congestion with the cell towers. And that caused some issues for like the first 3 or 4 holes. I believe I heard that Terry Roddy was out there telling people to stop streaming, that asking people to, just not necessarily turn off their phones, but definitely stop.
Put your phone in airplane mode.
Yeah, but kind of. I mean, just stop using up all the data. And it's the same issue we've run into. We've asked tournament directors to ask spectators to do that with very little good results. Most people kind of just like, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Whatever.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So that was I think the big issue at the beginning. And I think they saw it again on 17-18 when you came around and everybody is there up top, because we noticed that 17, we lost the cameras after the drives, I believe it was, and up until about the middle of hole 18. Thankfully, they had a wired camera, so we got to see, them coming up on 18, but we did miss live all the shots. Now, thankfully, because the cameras are coming into the van, they were able to go back and show us what we had missed, which is kind of nice. But those are really the only glitches that I think I saw that really stood out to me. I mean, you are always going to have the occasional, let's go to the field reporter and they don't have audio, or you mean to cut to one thing and you cut to someone walking. Those things happen. It's live. That's all nitpicky stuff that I could never ever hold against anybody, because it's all stuff that we do.
Yeah, and I made a disclaimer. I ended up doing some form of kind of a live recap.
Yeah, you did. That's pretty awesome.
A live recap that I did on, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday night. And it was clearly kind of just shooting from the hip, doing it at my house, just to, I guess, release some thoughts about the event. And I made the disclaimer there at one point, and I'll say it right here and right now. Anytime Johnny and I talk about a live outfit, any live outfit that's either come or gone within our sport or within the realm of disc golf, it is to be known that it is a learning process for us. And unlike the post-production world, there's not a lot to look at and or compare us to in terms of live disc golf productions. We've seen other productions come along, and our predecessors, and we've seen most of them now come and go. And so there wasn't a lot to necessarily digest or to learn from, other than, seeing them maybe make similar mistakes that we have or make different mistakes. All of it's a learning thing, and I don't want anyone to ever think, and I almost hate that I have to say this, but I don't want anyone to think that in any way are we trying to be judgy or trying to be dismissive or anything, but really just kind of pointing out the nuances and the strengths and weaknesses that we noticed, all because we then will take that and hopefully better ourselves. And so it's kind of tough to talk about someone who's, in a sense, our competitor and have it not sound
like
either
being judgmental,
biased, whatever the words might be. So I do want to throw all of that out there. I said it, and I'll repeat it again, just as Johnny just did, though. I said it each of the nights of the broadcast in my wrap-up that I thought they did a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with a lot of the things that they did. If it's funny to me to see, funny is not the right word, to see when a mistake is made, and we're at a point too where we can be like, oh, well, we can guess what might have happened, and we actually know, and that's just come with our experience. Just like I'm sure if they've ever watched or researched anything we've done, hopefully they know the kind of mistakes that we made, and hopefully they tried to avoid the same thing. That's all part of this process. And when we don't have a lot of comparisons to make within the sport of disc golf, it's been a great learning tool as they've come along. Now, they clearly changed up their format from the previous year in that they were much more focused on the lead card, giving us the best lead card experience that we could, as opposed to the previous year where it was, the Hole 17 show or Hole 17 Live or whatever it was called. Now, one of the major, I think the probably the biggest difference, if we really wanted to lay everything out on the table, I would say the biggest difference that you see between the two, aside from just sheer personnel, was the fact that, again, this year we saw them putting a drone up and cutting to that shot a number of times, I think more this year than last year. And so in a very unofficial capacity, both Johnny and I have been asking, how valuable is that to someone, to you guys as the viewer? Is that something is that icing on the cake? Is that the cherry on top? Is that an integral part of it? Does that make your viewing experience that much greater that you think, wow, that's what put me over the top, or that's what gave us? Those are things that we really genuinely want to know, because we're on a very limited budget, very limited resources. And if we do get more resources or budget, we have to think about what's the most logical thing for us to go after next. Because as Johnny will tell you, as he's dying to say, we could think of 100 ways to spend money very resourcefully in a very practical manner, and that drone could be at spot 101. But if somebody said no, it is the end all be all, well, then it maybe would get pushed up on our list as well.
I think the drone was nice. I saw two really great shots and angles with the drone. Drew Gibson's drive on 18, I think it was the first day, and then Nico throwing on hole 5, I believe it was Nico, when you could tell based on the drone that he wasn't going to clear the water. And it was a really great angle. Other than those two shots, it was filler, and I don't think anyone will dispute that. It was something nice to have while we got to listen to Jamie and Hannah talk. From SmashBoxx's perspective, that drone was up almost the entire round all those days. So, which means they dedicated an entire person to that, a drone person. I look at that and go, I can think of other places to put a person. I could put them on another hole. We could get second card coverage. We could have, for SmashBoxx, I could have a replay person then. As opposed to, I do all the replays myself right now. A graphics person that they had. Those are things that I look at and go, where does that weigh for me? For me personally, I put it low on the list.
Sure.
I would rather see additional cards covered than have a couple really nice fancy shots that I can go to for filler that I put a scoreboard in front of anyway. Like, I get it. It's cool. I think that overall, I think this was some of the best single card coverage that our sport has seen. And I kind of put a little disclaimer in there because I feel like the last 3 to 5 holes of the final day could have been better in that not even the technical glitch that they had at 17. I feel like with that many people in the running, at one point, 4 of the top 5 guys were within like 3 strokes, and only one of them was on the card they were covering. So being able to roll to another card would have amped up the drama. And now they're fortunate that James Conrad won, so you could say, hey, we always had the winner on screen. But if Koling or Clemens or Nico had somehow come back to win, you're looking at an entire round of not seeing them, basically, with the occasional as we call it jokingly, bonus coverage when you happen to catch up to them in a backup. I think that's really where their limitations were. And the presentation was wonderful. The couch was better than I expected when I first heard that they were going to be sitting on a couch. I thought it was much better than what I was expecting, I guess.
I've got so many just so many ideas about how I should be broadcasting from a couch next year.
I don't want to hear them.
I've got a lot of good ideas.
I don't want to hear them.
And I've already mentioned Zubaz, so
that's
there's your
definitely
foreshadowing.
So that's, to me, if there was a limitation, that is the limitation that I would have liked to see around hole 12 or 13. Looking at those scores, if it was Smashbox, we would have rolled a person. Just said, okay, cool. There's too much action on this other card. You need to go there. It's not like Conrad had a 5-stroke lead and these guys were all fighting for, to get into second place. They were fighting for first place.
Yeah.
They were tied at times. So that to me is where I think they could improve. That the drama could have been really amped up for the live with that extra coverage. Other than that, I mean, they had some really cool little things. When someone was going up to throw, you saw a little graphic circle around highlight their name. I thought that was kind of nice.
Yep. Nice little touch.
They did some really cool stuff with replays. After every hole, they would show you basically the replay of each player's shot. And more or less kind of fill in what they had done, which was really nice. It's kind of a standard sports thing, I believe. You almost always see some sort of highlight before going off into a commercial or an asset. That's normally a place where when the hole finishes, we will show the whole preview. They waited for whole previews till after the players threw their first shot and then would show you the drone whole preview. So just a little difference. Neither one is better than the other. I do think that they could have probably used a few more breaks.
Yeah,
I think speaking, not everyone can speak for 4 hours straight like us on our podcast. Speaking for those 4 to 5 hours in a row can be tough. And I think a break for the viewers, a break for the commentators, a break for the cameramen, I think all of that could have been worked in there at some point. Other than that,
I know. I think it's funny that me silly,
I
but
heard people actually saying like, I could use a commercial.
It just, again, I can't say that enough. And I know I said it on the recaps. Even if it was, for goodness sakes, I don't think anyone I'm sure someone would have. I don't want to say anyone. Someone would have complained. But there was, 4 sponsors on the bottom of the screen. Comporium, probably, Coca-Cola, Innova, maybe Winthrop, whatever they were on the bottom of the screen the entire weekend. If each one of them had a 30 to 60-second commercial once during the 4-hour broadcast, so we had 4 commercials for a total of 4 minutes of commercial time, I thought that would have been great. Like, as a viewer, just as you mentioned, just a little mental reset button. You're not watching the golf. You're not glued in. You're not absolutely dialed. I'm not saying you're going to just ignore the commercial. I'm not suggesting that either. But just okay, you can take a breath. Everyone can kind of stand down mentally just for a moment. I think that would have been great. I would have loved to see it. What I thought was funny, and I was later corrected, was we get to day 4, and they come in on hole 3. I think it's hole 3. And all of a sudden, we're seeing the piece that was done, a little put together piece that was done on Kristen Tatar, which I saw earlier on Facebook, and then a piece about Paul Macbeth, which I thought, this sounds really weird. It sounds like it was from before the tournament. I feel like it should have aired the first day, not our final day. Nonetheless, I'm like, wow, good. I love these prepackaged pieces. Like, I think we need those, whether they're human interest or backstory or whatever they are. I'd love to see a few of these prepackaged pieces from time to time. I would substitute out a set of replays or some other ways to then have these prepackaged pieces. And they were there, and I was like, this is great. It's too bad it took till day 4, but I'm glad we're seeing some. Only to find out after a few of those play, like, oh, we're missing the golf right now because they're having technical difficulties, which of course we have plenty of. So I'm not judging that. I'm just saying I wish we would have seen some of those pieces earlier in the week and had more of those. I really thought we'd see a lot of them instead of commercials, but we didn't really have those pieces and we didn't have the commercials. And I beg for the mental reset and the mental break for the viewers and for the announcers. Have a commercial once in a while. And I know some people are like, oh, dude, I paid $10 and I still had to watch commercials. In a 3.5-hour broadcast, if you have 4 1-minute commercials, you could live. I would have been fine with that. And I'm just making up a number here.
I think limited commercials is fine.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I know I mentioned earlier, Jamie Thomas said 2,200. That was for broadcast day 1. I have to assume that 2 and 3 were higher numbers. Again, if I had to take a slightly educated, because I'm not very
correct,
guess, I would not be surprised if if they announce the numbers, if we hear 4,000. Like, to me, that feels like if day 1 was 2,200, by day 4, probably 4,000 for USDGC would make sense.
Presumably, and if you do a little bit of math, as Johnny and I did in our heads, we saw, of course, the $10 price point, which Johnny and I intentionally paid full price for. I had a free one. I gave it away last week. Johnny signed up instantly. We could have used discounts. I wanted to fully support them. So I'll pat myself on the back and pat Johnny on the back for that.
Thanks.
We paid full price on purpose, but then there was a discount. So if on average they came in at $9 because it was offered at 8 and at 10, we'll call it 9, plus they gave some away. $9 at 4,000, it's $36,000 of income. Nothing more than a guess here. Can't be confirmed or denied, but I think that sounds like a reasonable estimate. Now, I'll just follow that guess or estimate up with by Hannah's rough estimation, as she says it on the board.
Oh, did she give it a rough
No,
estimate?
she gave us an estimation. I said, how many people outside of, thank you, Disc Golf Comedy, for the super chat, outside of the talent, Christine, Kenny, Jamie, and Hannah herself, we'll call those 4 the talent. Outside of the talent, I said, can you roughly estimate how many people were part of Fulcrum's crew?
I think it was like 10. Because I guess 3 cameramen, drone guy, 2 switchers, graphics, replay, and I thought there was one more, so maybe 9.
Van drivers, operators?
Van driver. That's right. That's who actually it was.
Some guy just up there holding beep, beep, beep. No. Okay, so
that's yeah.
Wow. Dang.
Oh,
drone woman, I'd like to say.
I did see a picture of a woman. I didn't know what her particular position was. I just assumed.
Don't assume where that woman's role is, Johnny.
I assumed she was in the most important role, which I consider the switcher.
Exactly. So
saved it.
Point is, somewhere between 10 and 15 people as part of that Fulcrum crew.
Whew. Nice.
That aren't part of the talent. the 4 that I just
You
mentioned.
just said they had no talent.
No, that aren't part of. Now, putting that into perspective, again, just for nothing more than a comparison's sake or point of reference, when you're talking about a typical broadcast that comes from SmashBoxx, you're talking about lately. We'll go with something lately. We've had maybe myself. We'll have Nate and Val. Let's just say in at their place in Bend. Myself on site, and maybe or maybe not throw in another reporter and or person. It's usually 3, or once in a blue moon 4. At Green Mountain we had Madison, I think, out there. Did we have Madison and AJ? Yeah, AJ would be in the field. Madison might be getting interviews back at the Tournament Central, and then 2. So we'll say we had 4, roughly 3 or 4 talent, and then from a actual on the ground, behind the scenes role, we've got Johnny V as a switcher, and we've got a throw cam, a catch cam, and a reaction cam, or a roamer, whatever we want to call that person. So we're talking about 4.
As I said last week, I do the job of like 5 people.
Yeah, with the brain of with the brain of how many?
Barely 1. As we saw to this on our intro when we had no volume, barely 1.
Yes, exactly. If you saw the opening, the opening of our, I guess it would be the opening of the show.
You didn't hear it.
Yes, exactly. So we'll give them a pass there. So those are numbers. We're just throwing them out there. Take it as information gathering, as we're doing. I think the long and short of it is more money can bring in more people, which can then do a lot more cooler things.
Mm-hmm.
That is the takeaway. I know that doesn't sound like you needed a 10-minute breakdown to arrive at that, but it can't echo more true than an event like this.
Yeah, I as someone said, I want to give a shout out to Fulcrum. I thought they did a phenomenal job. It's their second ever live broadcast for disc golf.
Yeah.
I made a joke. I emailed Luke from Fulcrum today. I just said, hey, great job. And he comes back and he says, yes, as you know, live can be tricky. We had this issue, and he even mentioned that they had an issue with the cell signal. And he's like, I'm looking forward to taking a break and in 10 days going to do like the Ultimate World Championships. And I said, well, go have fun streaming that easy sport.
Yeah.
So bravo to everybody involved. I thought you knocked it out of the park. And if you haven't seen it, the Spin TV coverage with Jamie and the Champ, some pretty good stuff out there. And the Jomez stuff, of course, they do a really great intro on day 4 and a wrap up on day 4, where with James Conrad joining in with Big Sexy at the end to do a little interview. They actually showed the last couple shots of Conrad on their video, which I thought was an interesting selection. I know. That was something I was going to talk to you about later, about some of the possible issues that like if it weren't Spin, what if that were CCDG? Would there be issues, and who gets what? Anyway, long story. Either way, they did a phenomenal job, and I can't praise everybody involved enough at this event. So I'm going to stop now.
Yes, great job. I said it throughout the entire week as well. The only final notes on that in the USDGC, I would say, is it was fun to do the wrap-up show each night. We kind of sort of had that little, I guess I hosted somewhat of a watch party. One of the biggest challenges that doesn't have anything really to do with Fulcrum, so to speak, was the fact that we missed out on a chat board, not being on a platform.
I forgot about that.
Not being on a platform like YouTube, and I'm not saying it has to be YouTube, but when you go away from the YouTube platform, the number one thing that I feel like you miss out on, and some people say, it doesn't matter, I don't care, I don't like it, that's fine, but there's a lot of people that really do like and miss the chat board experience. I think that's something that's unique to our coverage in disc golf, and something I'd like to see somehow integrated no matter what the platform is. So having, do those, the watch party or the nightly shows, I think continues to just prove exactly that. So we missed you. We know UDisc has a chat board. That was kind of a hot spot for a day or two as well, but love to see some kind of chat feature come back or be part of it. So, speaking of chat boards, chat features, do we want to shut down the regular show and then open the after show with this guy? Do we want to get right to him? What do you want to do?
We can get right to him.
All right. Well, he's hanging out in our Disc Baron digital green room, and I think he's going to have some insight. Let's welcome Paul Ulibarri to the show.
Welcome back to the show, Paul.
How you doing,
What's
buddy?
up, guys? I'm good.
How
Good
are
to
you
see
feeling?
y'all.
How are you feeling? Let's get to we're it's an injury night. How are you
talking
feeling?
to a lot of hurt people?
It's been a crazy, last couple months for sure. I'm feeling good, I'm recovering well. Slow process, but yeah, just plugging along.
All right. Well, you, of course, I saw you wish, James and others, throughout the week. Obviously, you're one of our top competitors. And in addition to being a top competitor, you're one of our top fans of the sport of disc golf. What was the USDGC experience like for you from afar?
I mean, I think it was everything we really wanted. I believe that majors should be the toughest ones to win, just like everybody says, and I love when the field's really tight, and that's what we got this weekend. It makes it exciting for everybody. And the one thing that I've had a problem with, the last probably 10 years in disc golf is there's a lot of great players that just don't get featured out there. All the hypes around Macbeth, Ricky, Eagle, Simon, just these people who have that support from their sponsors or whoever does that. And people like Simon do a lot of work as well, with his trick shot videos and just putting themselves out there. There's not a lot of people getting featured. And this weekend we got to see, Chris Clemens make a deep run. Emerson at the Worlds, Chris Clemens at the Worlds, and we're getting to see these at these major championships. I think that's a product of not only the course design, probably just the course design, honestly, that they're so hard that when, our greats have an off day, a Chris Clemens can play well and be right there in contention. So I loved it.
And what's really great is if you didn't know about Emerson Keith before Worlds, if you didn't know about Chris Clemens before USDGC and Nathan Queen, you know them now. Like, we got to see their personality. We got
Absolutely.
to see how they handled adversity, what they did day in and day out. And just as you're saying, that exposure for those players might mean something to them and their brand. It's so much bigger for the sport. There are so many Chris Clemens, Nathan Queen, Emerson Keith fans out there that may have never even known those guys just 3 months ago. And that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And it reminds me of even when Kevin Jones made his deep run at the USDGC. You never know when these guys are just going to absolutely become superstars. And they're just one good break away. And Chris Clemens was one hole away from being a U.S. champ. So it can go all kinds of different ways, but it was awesome and super exciting. And like you guys said, the film crew did amazing. I thought the whole entire week, along with the commentary and everything, I thought it was just, fantastic.
Well, something I want to bring up, and I guess I kind of meant to get to it a few minutes ago when we were wrapping up players and injuries and conversations. Something with Paul, making his comment last night or his announcement, whatever you want, declaration, whatever you want to call it. And then thinking back to the Worlds this year, and a question was asked in the press conference about, where is everyone at physically? And it was Paul who said, we're all athletes and we all have some form. We're never 100%.
Right.
Is something like, this ankle, is that a testament to it where maybe really none of us knew about it? It was something he wasn't addressing. It was something he wasn't necessarily public about. And then, it goes bad on him officially, during the USDGC. And is that a testament to what he was saying in that press conference months ago?
Oh, I almost guarantee it. Every single player has something they're going through. When we're playing this many tournaments, this many rounds, this many holes, it seems like we have a big tournament every other week, if not every week. Yeah, you're dealing with some sort of aggravated limb of some sort. You're throwing all these shots like nobody's going to be 100%. I mean, I can use myself as an example. I was playing on a torn ACL for 2 years. I didn't even know it, I was out there. I was just like, well, my legs hurt. Oh, well, I'm going to push through it. Or, I've had injuries with my hand. I had to drop out of the world championships after I broke the tip of my finger. And that's aggravated me ever since, and it's just like these little things that, I'm not going to name any names, but some people are kind of babies about it to where they're like every other weekend, it seems like they're, complaining about something or this is the reason why or something. But if you're going hard out there and you think you can win every tournament, you are going to do what you have to get out there and do that. There's not going to be an injury that's going to, keep you away unless it's something like I had to deal with, like this, surgery or something like that.
As a guy who has come up in the touring ranks and has competed with him and traveled internationally with him and knows him quite well, talk about Nico's run, what you were making of that, as 10 years later, he's 30 years old now, where he's been, what he's been doing, but talk about the run that he was making at the event this year.
I almost called that. I almost called him winning that tournament early in the week. I also almost called him winning Worlds because he's one of those players where anybody who's ever played with Nico in practice or in a tournament, he's one of the best we've ever had, like ever. And he has, I've said this before, he has more angles and more shots than anybody in the game, and that's not even close. Like there are people that I consider a better player than Nico, but as far as the versatility and the shot making ability that Nico has, like he's second to none. He's that good. And it all has to do with that putting stroke, and that mental game. And if he can get that going, like, of course, the U.S. Championship is made for somebody like him who, guess what? You don't have to putt well. You really don't, because people are taking sevens on little short holes. If you're throwing the disc well and you're taking pars on 7, you're getting 4 strokes on the leader. As long as you shoot, you can miss, if you're playing well off the tee, you can miss 4 or 5 putts in the circle and be just fine. I know it because I've done it at that course where I've just completely shredded it and just missed every single putt and still shot, like a 6 down and been like, I'm in 8th place. How is this even possible?
Well, I was just going to
go ahead.
I was just going to say, then think about the stark contrast to what you just said. James Conrad, going into the final day, didn't miss a putt inside the circle. But yet he started out very slow with a 3 under the first round, comes back with a solid 9, has another solid 9, but then goes to the final day, and it seems like, I don't want to say the wheels fell off, but clearly he struggled, unlike the previous few days. It was crazy to kind of see just how different things went for him on that final day as well.
Yeah, I mean, people can say what they want to say about James's final round. I thought he was in complete control the whole time of the tournament. I really did. I mean, for him to take the number that he did on 17 and still win the tournament, I mean, no offense to Chris Clemens, but that run he made was incredible. But it was, if I were to measure Chris Clemens up to James Conrad, I'm going to take James Conrad in that scenario. James has been there. He's won big tournaments and things like that. And 17 is a hole that will get somebody who hasn't been in that situation, just like putting me up against James Conrad going into the last hole. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain pressure there that other players have felt, and James has just put himself in contention constantly. And I thought he did a really good job of keeping his composure the whole entire tournament. And I thought he was in control of the tournament the whole time too.
Well, it certainly, things tightened up as that last hole, those last 2 holes
That's
unfolded.
What take quadruple bogeys.
Well,
what do you recall the worst score you've ever taken on that hole?
I think I've taken 1.5 in my career. Other than that, I haven't taken an over par stroke.
Okay, so you're comfortable, and is it just a stiff forehand over to the fat part of the green, and you either make a putt or you don't? Is that your play, or do you attack the pin?
I've seen him attack it because he aced it last year.
That's true. Yeah, I have seen you attack it, but is that always your plan?
I've aced it 2 times in tournament play, and I had a circle 3 on it one year.
Okay.
So I've hit it a few times, but no, my play is actually there's some light towers in the back, and I've told this to a few people, so this will be my secret getting out. There's a few light towers in the back, And if I aim it directly at the light towers with that height as hard as I can with an overstable disc, I can't miss the green. It's just like
sounds like
yeah.
the insider SmashBox exclusive pro tip from Yuli for next time you guys are in the lead or near it at the USDGC.
As soon as they take down those light towers, I'm screwed though.
So the 11s are going to show up.
Missed the island. I actually hit the very end of the thing, the hay bale, and flipped me into a roller straight out the back. And then I played it to the fat part, pitched over, and took a double bogey. So
yeah, well, it would you change that hole at all? I mean, you play it well. But
I think that's
would you if you
probably the most iconic hole we probably have in disc golf.
Okay. And do you like the rules?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do you like the stroke and distance on any other holes?
Oh yeah, I've spoke about stroke and distance to you guys many a times. That's one of my favorite rules. I think that
Okay.
should definitely be a part of disc golf.
Okay. Do you feel one follow up to that, and then I'll move on. We'll move on from it. But do you feel like to play stroke and distance at that one event at our major, as opposed to nowhere else does it really get played throughout the year? Do you like that approach, or would you like to see it? Since you like stroke and distance, would you like to see it at more events?
I want to see it at more events. Honestly, okay. I think there's a lot of things that the DGC does that people like are like loving, know. And then if you would put that hole on almost any other course in the world, people would complain. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. All I hear with a lot of people is people complaining about like mandatories and stuff. Guess what? USDGC is almost every single pro's favorite place, aside from, I mean, how many people have you ever heard being like, this is the worst place I've ever played and not come back out of the top players in the world?
I think one or two.
I think they keep coming back. I think there's a lot of people that don't love it, but they keep coming back because you kind of have to.
You kind of have to at being a major. I think that's one of the I don't want to say downsides, but one of the ways they kind of have you over a barrel, whether or not Innovar, but the PDGA is that even if you didn't like the event as a pro player, you kind of feel obligated to play that major.
Have to be there.
It's like Worlds. Worlds can go to a place where everyone hates, but people are still going to show up because they want that world championship.
See, but me personally, what the conversations I've had with a lot of the best players in the world, they all love it. So
yeah, I mean, I know Michael Johansson hates it. He's come out on record saying he does not like that particular.
Well, there's
course,
certain styles like a Michael Johansson or Andrew Fish or somebody like that. Definitely, I can see it not being their favorite place. But for the most part, I feel like it's a lot of people's favorite course. And with that being said, there's a mandatory on every single hole.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine putting hole 4 on a different course. Like everybody would be like, "What is this?" Really? Like, imagine if you were just like at a different tournament and then hole 4 was there. I don't think anybody would like it. But because it's the USDGC, people are like, "Oh, this hole's fine. It's good."
Yeah, well, it will be great to see as they've implemented the 2 new holes. Of course, every year there's just a little bit of change, whether it's adding, some of the posts, taking them away, moving them, tightening lines. We've seen that throughout the years where it felt like every year they were slowly compressing the lines, making them a little bit tighter, and then we see them, kind of loosen them. They're always changing, and I think that's something they take a lot of pride in, as they should. They're looking for feedback. They're looking for ways to vary it and to just kind of keep the player guessing just a little bit from year to year. So I don't know. Sure. 2 years are ever alike. And that's why it's always a funny question about things like course record. You can be like, not really. Last year was different for these 6 reasons. Like, there's never 2 years that have been absolutely identical.
Yeah, Hannum has the course record for this year, basically at 13. Next year, there'll be 2 different Mandos and maybe a different hole, and you can throw all that stuff out.
Sure.
Well, no, you still have a course record at the USDGC. It's just I think when it comes down to, I think it's a number that is really the course record for any course. If you shoot 16 under in whatever positions it's in, that's the course record at a major championship. Like for golf,
Sure.
for example, you go to the Masters and, you know, I think it's 62 is the record, and there's a billion different pin placements. But if you shoot a 62 any of the rounds, that's the course record.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how nitpicky you really want to be. Because, like last year, the mozzarella sticks were in front of hole 16. Like, that clearly is different. Last year, we didn't play, you know, they didn't play even holes 3 and 4 that they played this year.
New ones, yeah.
So, I hear what you're saying, though. Everything's, it's ever-flowing. Any surprises from the event in any way, any capacity? Releases, players, finishes.
Macbeth finishing in 64th or whatever was a big surprise to everybody. But
are you kicking him off the team?
Yeah,
you're the team. You're team captain right now. Are you kicking
He's
him off the
lucky
team?
He won Worlds. I'll tell you that.
You're out there spray painting his RV, crossing him out on the Discraft RV.
No, what he did this year was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I think he could just hit 1060 rated.
I mean,
what that? Yeah. I don't even know. I've done that, like, I've shot that many rounds probably like 20 times in my career. So
that's his average. No big deal.
Yeah, no, but that's probably my. I mean, James winning is a big surprise, honestly. I feel like that's the surprise of the tournament. Yeah, but he won his first major. I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
What about
the surprise?
And again, not to pick on him, but I think some of the surprises are when you see someone like a Steve Brinster who's won this event in the past and comes up just short of cashing this year. Like, to me, that's incredible that this course has that much power over our players. And Austin Turner and the whole slew of a dozen people that you're like, huh? Like, they didn't, like Johnny McRae, huh? Like, these people
Simon
didn't
even cash.
Simon. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the USDGC for you. I mean, I feel like the only way Simon could do that is if he was just going for it and then it blew up on the front 9 and then he just didn't care, you know?
Sure. Or he takes a 10 on hole 17, which is what happened. And
yeah.
You know, that
did he?
Him.
I didn't even look at his
he took
scores.
a 10 on hole 17, and that was clearly the difference between, you know, give him even a remotely decent score on that hole, and he's in the cash.
Sure. Yeah, so, I didn't even see that. So
pretty crazy. Disc golf, the disc golf, world continues. We, in a few days move down to the Hall of Fame Classic. Then we have the Pro Tour finale, and then we maybe really start officially closing down the season. We talked earlier about how crazy it is to not have those 3 players, the Eagle, the Ricky, the Paul, at these last 2 events. What should some of the other what should some of these players be thinking moving into these next 2 weekends? Some of the guys that are still out there.
I mean, it's a chance to get a big win, Without those guys there, I mean, those are the favorites, and when they're gone, I mean, it has to be a confidence booster for them. And if it's not, then they're not thinking correctly, because it's a wide open tournament. I think the favorite probably going into Hall of Fame is Conrad. Okay. Those courses set up well for him, or I think Kevin Jones or something like that. But Kevin Jones didn't even have a very good finish at the US for his standards,
Yeah, I mean, Conrad, Johnny mentioned whether it's more of a hangover feeling and an excitement or a letdown or whatever you want to call it, versus what I think is what I feel like maybe more like you, in that I think it'll be a confidence booster, because now we're going into the woods. We're playing Jackson. And we all know just how deadly and confident he is in the woods. He conquered the open stuff. Now put him in the woods, and it's going to be really hard to get past him for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I think his attitude really, I don't see him having a hangover from winning the USDGC. He's just so lackadaisical, I feel like, and just, loving the tour and everything. I think he'll do just fine. He's probably, looking to play really well. But you have a lot of people, Austin Hannum just came off a course record, like you guys said. Like anybody like that's a place where he could definitely feel like, you know what, I'm playing well, things can come together and take down a big win.
Yeah. Now, last year, almost to the day, we had you on here, and you were telling us, I didn't play the course. I don't know what's going on. I'll show up on that day, and I'm just going to go out and, like, throw some Frisbees. Like, I'm so mentally burned out is pretty much what you said, almost verbatim, is what you said to us a year ago. Here we are with these last two events, and I know we just mentioned who's not going to be there, but do you have any sense? Are your teammates exhausted? Is there any, how do we close out these last 2 weekends? And then is it done? Is it truly done? Do the RVs all go back to their places and get parked or rewrapped or wherever they're going to go? Do things all shut down in 2 weeks when we're done in Charlotte?
Honestly, I think these injuries might give everybody kind of a rejuvenation type thing to where they think they can win these tournaments. So I think people are going to be ready to go. Honestly, if I was out there, that's the way I'd be doing it. I'd be in the gym right now. We're trying to get mentally prepared to win one of these big ones. And obviously we do that all the time. But when a guy's averaging 1060, like that's a lot of pressure to go in and try to beat somebody like that.
Yeah.
Really. So yeah, I'm guessing that a lot of these players are probably excited about playing these last two events, and I'm sure some of them are exhausted for sure. But
give us a little taste. What should we expect come off season? Do you think we're going to see some big moves? I don't think there's going to be any that are going to be as big as last year, but are we going to see some player transitions and moves? Are we going to see people maybe reevaluating their touring and what they're going to do with maybe the way the schedule sets up next year? Do you have any predictions or thoughts about moving into this offseason?
Have you seen the schedule for next
year?
year?
People are going to be moving around, of course. I don't, like you said, I don't think there's going to be anybody really making those big. I mean, who's going to be bigger than Macbeth or Ricky or Eagle or Simon or anything like that? So I think as far as that goes, probably not. But I think next year, with the way that this season went, I think we might see some more Europeans come over next year and compete on the tour. I could really see that happening. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think everybody's after that it's going to be really excited about the off season after the pro tour.
I don't know if you heard what my question. Have you seen the schedule for next year? It was kind of announced today.
I did. I looked at it today.
And thoughts? Any initial thoughts?
I saw Vegas wasn't in there.
Yep.
Vegas and Hall of Fame are both out. We have new bookends to.
Yeah, open the new opener on the season moves us to Texas. This is the NT season specifically. We go to Texas. Steve Story is bringing us to that in the end of March for the Texas State Championships.
Yeah, I like that. I know Steve Story. Didn't he just win Tournament Director of the Year? So you gotta believe that that's going to be an amazing tournament. I mean, Vegas has usually been the start of the year, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of people out there still playing that one. But yeah, nothing really stuck out as surprising to me. I had a feeling that we were going to go back to Texas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is interesting to see that Vegas, who has already opened up registration, although I guess they're just claiming a weekend for their ATR. They've opened up registration. Will we see any kind of fall off in Vegas or the Memorial with Vegas not being an NT opener or anything like that? Or will everyone still likely do, wintertime open, then Vegas, then the Memorial or whatever? I guess, Vegas is going to be, still before the
Vegas
Memorial.
Will still be before the Memorial. The Memorial is going to technically open our season same weekend, February 27th through March 1st. Kind of your typical thing. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some fall off
for Vegas.
I think with it being as tight as
I think you'll see a big fall off for sure.
Yeah, because there's always been complaints about how tight the schedule is between the end of Vegas and the beginning of Memorial. And if there is not the drive to get the players there by making it an NT or a Pro Tour event, I bet you see some people warm up at wintertime and then just move right to the Memorial and play from there.
Honestly, it took a lot of pressure off of my schedule because, of my injury. That gives me an extra 2 weeks to get ready for the Memorial and the tour that we have to play. So, I mean, I'm as of right now, I do not plan on Vegas being a stop for me.
Okay. And then we can you could go through all the various events, but one thing that sticks out the most for me, well, a couple of things actually, I should say, seeing the U.S. women's move into not only California, which is obviously on the opposite side of the country for where it's been for many years, it's usually been on, but also September into May, and that's just a big change. Our tour will be flowing just fine in that direction at that time, but that's a huge change in terms of the timing. And then, Beaver State, they're going to 3 rounds. It won't be the 4 rounds over 3 days. They're going to 3 rounds. And instead of the beginning of June, they're going to the end of June.
Oh, I didn't even.
And
put
I
that
think
together.
that's a significant change.
I definitely saw that as well. It's definitely a big time change, but I do like that as well.
Okay, yeah, it was always a little weird. As much as everyone loves those 2 courses, it's always a little weird that you guys would play 1 round on or 2 rounds on Friday, 1 Saturday, 1 Sunday. It
right.
I don't think it was out of the norm for what we do the rest of the year for you guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it in the past, but once again, we have an NT the week after, I think both majors. NT after Worlds, because June 13th through 20th will be Worlds in Ogden, Utah. June 26th through the 28th, Beaver State.
Wow.
So there's no break after that. And then USDGC is October 7th through 10th. The very next weekend is the Pro Tour Championships in Charlotte, North Carolina from October 16th through 18th. So once again, next year we're going to have that same discussion about should there be breaks
following our
before
majors
or after these majors. And we're not, we don't see it.
I'd rather see the breaks before, obviously. I think it's going to it just takes the prestige out of the other ones, I think, to me, right after the major, because you're just mentally, I can only speak for myself. And I know that the effort that I put into the majors is like mentally, it's exhausting having to play the next weekend. I just don't care.
Yeah, no, understandable. And so like Johnny just said, and then the other really, really, I think, significant change is the fact that we are not seeing the Hall of Fame Classic. This will be the last year in this capacity.
So
at
nothing
least
at
as
the
an NT.
IDGC or a national tour. And
instead, we're going to be wrapping up a few weeks earlier, way back at the end of September, the Music City Open taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. I stayed with Mo. I know Ian and Central Coast have been very active with that event over the last few years covering it. That sounds like throwing and more throwing.
They did say, if you read the description, that it might not be the same layout and that they may, quote unquote, go a little easier on the pros by shortening the course a little bit. Because I think the feedback that they got was that it might be too long of a course.
Sure. Okay.
Sure. When I think about that, when I think about the Music City Open, I think about Cedar Hill and Seven Oaks and things like that, which are like kind of tight technical courses. And I believe I saw some of the coverage. It was on a traditional golf course, correct?
Ravenwood.
Yeah, and I believe that's the schedule for this year as well, right? To be out there, because last year wasn't it like 12,000 feet?
It says here 13,000
13,000
feet. Wow. And so this year, 2020, they say that it'll probably be shortened. It may not be the same.
6,000.
It may not be the same 2019, the same as it was in 2019.
Okay, but
noted that the layout has changed every year it's been used for the MCO, and that the course designer Sean Sinclair is aiming to not only make use of some more of the property's wooded areas, but also make the course flow more smoothly.
Okay, so
all right,
2 new events on the tour. That's and they're events that we haven't seen on the tour. I know for years we've seen like a Kansas City dip in and dip out. For a while we saw Brent Hambrick in and then out.
Right.
Pittsburgh, I think we've seen on and off the tour. These 2 are ones that we really, I guess Texas State's in a sense we've seen in, I think, some other variation, but really coming to an entirely new property in Tennessee. So sounds like good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then
I'm
all the
always
Pro
interested
Tour
in new courses.
It appears that the Pro Tour is mostly unchanged.
Okay.
I didn't see any really shocking or anything different about the Pro Tour events. I think we're going to get all the same ones: Memorial, Waco, Jonesboro, San Fran, Portland, GLO, Idlewild, Ledgestone, MVP Open at Maple Hill, Green Mountain, and then the Pro Tour finale.
So,
I am happy, and because with the way the things happened with the Pro Tour this year, I wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sure we were going to see MVP on the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I assumed we would, but I wasn't sure. So I'm extremely happy that MVP is continuing to be on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think we see all the same events, and although the dates change slightly, they're even going in the same order. So sounds like there's some good consistency.
I like the Pro Tour. I enjoy that schedule a lot.
So do I.
For sure.
I'm becoming a bigger fan of the Pro Tour than I am the National Tour. And that's not just because that we're employed by them a lot of times. I just think that I like the cohesiveness of the tour. I like the flow of the tour. I like the points and the finale. I just overall like just how it has come together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yuli, what else are we missing in the disc golf world? On or off the course?
Oh man, no, I think you guys hit it on the nose that, you know, the USDGC was the big news, and then all the injuries is crazy. I thought seeing Macbeth's ankle, but then how silly it was to see Eagle have to end his USDGC early with the famous old mistake that we've all done. That was I'm not glad that he did it, but he's going to learn from it, and I'm guaranteed he never punches the ground again. At least not with his right hand.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
That's what the left was made for.
Yeah.
But I did it early on in my career as well, where I definitely punched the ground, and I looked at my knuckle, and it was like already swollen. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
This is not good. I don't know if I broke it or not, but I mean, I kept playing. But it was very painful, and I never did it again.
I mean, quickly touch on that. Like, to know, and it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda, of course, and different circumstances the following day. However, to see Conrad, who was 2 strokes in front of Eagle going into that round, the final round, to see him then ultimately shoot over par, and Eagle to struggle to even find, you know, pars and hardly any birdies. Like, think of that woulda, coulda, shoulda situation. If Eagle does have a good hand and that wasn't an issue,
I mean,
who
we
knows
could play
what
the woulda, coulda, shoulda game.
Of course, I know.
I have to sit here on the couch and play the woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Of course, I know.
Game. When I see these guys come in with a 19 under par score, you know, I was talking to Josh today about it, Anton, on the phone, and he had to pull out of the USDGC from a hurt back. There's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas at every single tournament, but ultimately there has to be a winner, and that's just the way that it works. You know, you don't punch the ground, and
I know, and that's why I'm not fully going there. I'm just saying, if you were a betting man, which all 3 of us are, you would not say when Eagles 19 under for the weekend at the time,
the winner is going to end up at 21.
Or that Eagle is going to shoot +5 in the final round. Nobody would have bet that. With the weekend he was currently having, no one would say with a healthy hand, oh yeah, Eagle's definitely going to shoot a, +5,
but
maybe a +3 or a +5 today.
I think the winner would have been either James or Eagle for sure if Eagle had not a hurt hand. But I also believe that James would have played better if Eagle was pushing him. There's nobody pushing him on that lead card at all. He had like I said, he was in control of the tournament. You know, the whole entire time. There were second card people doing things, but like I said before, the second card people who were doing things, you have to think, like, if I keep playing my best golf, I should win this tournament in James's position. So
I think James had control of that card. I don't think he had control of the tournament, because I think at one point he sat down on like hole 15.
He took a 7 on 17. He had control of the tournament. For sure.
I was saying
he had to birdie the final hole, though.
He had to birdie par. Okay, so like he sat down on 15, and you could, on the live coverage, you saw him look at his phone, and he visually was like, oh, like there are people making a run at me. I don't necessarily know if he knew that. He was always in the lead or tied for the lead, but up until 17, up until the group before him got to 17, I don't believe he was in control of that event. He was comfortable. He was playing his game, but man, they were nipping at his heels. And then hole 17 comes by for the second card, gives him that buffer. He's able to do what he does to get in. It is even 18 when he throws his approach. It's just a lot of pressure to
have somebody birdie 17 and 18 to win the tournament.
100% agree.
Like,
that is that is very difficult to do.
That's asking a lot. Yeah, so I don't know.
Again, that's why I know you can only play that so much. But and I said it the night before that I felt like at that point, before I knew about Eagles, the severity of his hand, I had said on Friday night myself that I think it's going to be Conrad or Eagle. I was expecting this great battle mainly with those two involved, and well, things happened the way they did come Saturday morning. So pretty incredible overall. All right, Yuli, what's next for you? Like what are you gonna do this weekend? You gonna go ride a skateboard or?
Yeah, thanks for cracking those nice jokes. What did I shoot this weekend? Maybe a gun. Yeah, I heard that. I'll remember those. I
said you could have shot the breeze. You could have.
We're all one injury away, boys. No, I'm just relaxing this weekend. Honestly, I've been really, really extremely busy over the last 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to a nice, relaxing weekend for sure.
What are you doing to keep yourself busy, active? You were cooking last time we spoke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those were the good days. No, I went, like I just said, I went through probably the two most hectic weeks of maybe my life the last 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to just kind of relaxing and watching some football and looking at my fantasy teams and
crying probably.
Yeah, maybe a couple cries here and there.
Only because I have no idea how are the Steelers doing this year.
Ooh.
I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, we're on our third string quarterback.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So if you hold out long enough, you might get a call, right? Is that what you're telling me?
What's it? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Put me in. No, yeah. I'm just rehabbing my leg and trying to get back. So got some good news from the docs. I think I might have mentioned that the last time I was on tour. They said I might be able to start soft practicing at middle of November or something like that. So.
And would that just be like putting, I'm assuming?
Yeah, putting up shots, different things like that, kind of pushing, and I'd be able to start rehabbing my left to right movements on my leg, which is, that honestly, that's like the last step in me making my recovery to actually playing. So
and that's
great news.
Your goal obviously is Memorial. That's your
plan? Or?
My goal is the Shelly Sharp in January.
Oh,
I would like to, yeah. That's
Maricopa Meadows.
Been my goal. What's that?
Maricopa Meadows, huh? I think I just signed that deal to come visit you again out there.
Yeah, I don't know about that. My ultimate goal is the Shelly. And I set that goal before my surgery even because they said that like your best recovery time is about 6 to 5 months, and that's right at that 5 month mark. So. Right at that 5.5, 6 month mark. And I got the okays from my doctors to probably be able to start actually practicing in end of December. So.
Yuli, one of my follow-ups, I know we kind of briefly just touched on what we might see on the MPO side. Thinking about the FPO side, one going into this weekend, Paige played, obviously, a grueling USDGC. No other FPO competitors that are at the NT this weekend, obviously Kristen being the only other female. She's no longer here in the States. We have Paige now, and this is the first time in history we've seen this, I think. We've got one woman in 980, in the 980s at 980. We've got Kat at 977, Holcomb at 965, and then next highest Rebecca Cox at 947. So we're talking about, in that different 10-point chunk, we'll say, for each of them. Does Paige have it in the tank? Does USDGC wear her out any more or any less than the next versus some of these women that maybe took the weekend off or I think of a Madison Walker who worked in Edge Village and helped out versus a Cat who, probably laid a little bit lower, maybe did just some light spectating. Any predictions on the FPO side?
No, I mean, I think it's always the Paige and Cat show out there, in my opinion. I mean, Kristen obviously showed that she can play, and there's a lot of European women that come over here and they can win at any time. So with them not being here, I think we can expect one of those two to definitely win. I mean, it's a pretty easy prediction.
It seems like an obvious one, but then you then put Sarah Hokum in the woods and you watch her carve her way around a place like Jackson.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
And you're like,
I think those three right there.
Sure, awesome. All right, buddy. Well, I unless you got anything else to share with us, we can cut you loose.
That's all I got, Bubba.
All right,
pal.
We will we'll catch up with your rehab in probably another month or two, figure out where you're at, how you're doing.
Can't wait. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, as always, we appreciate it.
All right, man.
Stay tuned. You too could be eligible for that MVP basket we're giving away tonight. Free portable.
Email me.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. The best part is he doesn't even know what email really is.
He doesn't understand email. He checks his mailbox for his email. It's weird.
Quick side story to that today before we head to the after show. I was on a field trip with my younger daughter today. We were at a historical society just down the road from her school. A woman giving the presentation shows us a phonograph that actually plays. It's pretty cool. They kind of show us what it looks like. And then they held up a little 45 record, and they asked naturally, hey, do you guys know what this is? And most of the kids blurted out, a CD? Like, oh, God, I'm so old that even our kids don't know what even CDs are because those are outdated. And I couldn't help but shake my head.
Mm-hmm. Vinyl's coming back, man.
Yeah. It sounds so much better on vinyl. Please, everybody tell me that. All right, we're going to close things out. We are, of course, going to give away the MVP basket as they're supporting my FPO coverage of the national tour this weekend. So we're going to do that in the after show. Thank you, and thank you to MVP for that support. And it's only going to benefit you guys. So I want to thank Paul Ulibari, of course, for joining us tonight. I want to thank the USDGC for giving us the show that they did this last week, and Fulcrum stepping up the way they did, along with all of the commentators and the talent out there. Huge shout out to Christine, Hannah, Jamie, Kenny, and everybody else on their crew. It was awesome to see it, and awesome for us to see it from our perspective. So for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been SmashBoxxTV podcast episode 268. Come on back for some MVP giveaways and other fun stuff in the after show. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 268 After Show, brought to you in part by MVP Disc Sports tonight. We're getting big time here, Johnny.
And Disc Member.
And Disc Member,
Our
yes.
Our Patreon supporter tonight will win a Disc Member box. I got no idea what's in it. I didn't look at their website, but you can go to discmember.com and take a look at what's in the October box. be
What more
anything.
could you ask for?
So,
a disc in a box.
A disc in a box.
And then some.
That's right.
Always a little extra loving we give out here at SmashBox.
JT,
Disc in a box.
Disc in a box.
Yep. You're going to get it. So we are glad you're joining us here for the after show. As always, the after show disclaimer of this may or may not be disc golf related. Any given topic. We also love to interact that much more with our active chat board. And I'm going to give you a little forewarning right now that if you want to be eligible for the MVP giveaway tonight to win a free MVP basket drop shipped to your door, you are going to need to do something to be active on chat. It won't be a race necessarily, but you're going to have to do something to be active on chat for just a few simple moments. That's all it's going to take for you to possibly win tonight, to be eligible to win. So we'll give you some time, whether you got to get your phone or get up off your couch and go grab a keyboard or whatever it is you need to do. I'm sure there are plenty of wives maybe that have to reach over their napping husband or boyfriend or whatever it might be to now reach for the phone or the tablet, because I know you're the one up listening. We hear that a lot. So whatever the case might be, get your keyboard ready so you can have a chance to win the MVP disc golf basket. And as Johnny mentioned just a few moments ago, if you are already a Patreon subscriber, we love you even more, because that means you are supporting us in some capacity. As little as $1 a month makes you eligible to win a giveaway every single week. Every week, and if somehow we miss a week, the next week we'll have 2 items to give away. But Johnny just mentioned Disc Member is going to be the giveaway of our Patreon subscribers today. And one final note on all that, I caught up yet again and managed to get 3 or 4 more Patreon products out the door as I caught up on a little shipping today. So some of you already know it's coming. Some of you have no idea because you forgot or didn't know you won, and all of a sudden something's going to show up from SmashBox. And that means you won. So thank you very much for supporting us.
And supporters at our clothing level, you should have gotten a package in the mail with a shirt very similar to this one. This one's actually just slightly different in the material, because this is an XLT. The XLs and every other one is more of a performance fit. So if you are at the clothing level, which is the $10 a month level, you have a nice new polo shirt with the SmashBox logo on it right here. So thank you very much to all the supporters at all the levels. It is much appreciated. I did order extra ones of these, so we might be looking at getting rid of some for a certain price, which I haven't even thought of yet. So I'll figure it out.
And a quick thanks and shout out to Miles Parkhill over at Paragon Disc Golf for the assist. They have provided some great fulfillment services, printing and fulfillment services. Miles has been supporting us for some reason for a number of years now, and we very much appreciate it, Miles. So thank you. All right, Johnny. So I feel like this should have been in the headliner, but tonight, I mean, I guess I can still change even the title, but I went to bed Sunday night having outperformed Paul Macbeth this week. I'm just saying, I attended a tournament on Sunday, which was
where was this tournament?
A little bit of a last moment decision.
How come you didn't notify me?
I thought you were doing something.
I mean, I might have been, but I don't know.
And it was good, kind of a mental refresher for myself. I traveled down to Logan Sport. I don't know if they pronounce it that way. Indiana. I specifically needed something for Sunday because Saturday we were excited to watch the final round of the USDGC. There was an event going on in Wisconsin that I forewent because I was that interested in the USDGC on Saturday. So I found a sanctioned event on Sunday. I traveled down there, and I thought I was going to be the 4th Masters competitor. Clearly, this is a relatively small event that's about to happen. I see they have anywhere from 28 to 48 competitors on on some of their prior events there. I saw that there were 2 Masters competitors. I thought I was going to make a 3rd. Then I saw Steve Boylan of Indiana. He signed up, so he was going to be a 3rd, and I was going to be a 4th. Perfect. Great. I get down there in the morning of, I show up, and lo and behold, I say I'd like to join, and we're all good to go. They have registration day of, so on. And little did I know, I was one of 10 Masters competitors. I was like, this is pretty cool. I certainly wasn't expecting that. Go out, have our first round. It was a lot of fun. I got to play with, first round I got to play with a couple of local gentlemen. Second round I got to play with Pat Vitale, who I haven't played and competed against in,
wow,
not quite a decade, but it's been a while. And it was a lot of fun. It's a relatively short, very technical course. They have 6 very open holes, and then they have 18 pretty wooded holes. This is at France Park outside of Logansport. And so it's a 24-hole layout. We played from the shorter tees. And when it was all said and done, I managed to find myself with a 16 under par out of 24 holes, which is really irritating only from the fact that I missed 2 or 3 putts inside the circle. Putts I shouldn't have missed. I got a few bonuses too. So go to lunch, do all that stuff, come back to find out 16 is like the number. There's 2 or 3, I think 1 or 2 or 3 people in open that had shot 16 under. And then the gentleman I shot with on my card, David, had shot 16 under. So that is leading the Masters division. Pretty exciting. A couple of us go back out. Of course, for the second round, we go to the longer tees, which are way harder on a number of the open holes, and they take away at least 3 or 4 of the birdies. And you traditionally see the scores all but plummet going into the longer holes at that course, from what I've seen from other standings. I'll fast forward. We get 4, 5, 6 holes in. I'm a couple over par, not having exactly a great start. I get to hole number 3. I throw, turn around, go back to the group. And they said, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah, I don't think that was me." No one knows. Sure enough, as I'm walking up the fairway, I decide to pull up my phone and hit record. And I said, walking up hole 3, thought we heard something, have no idea if there's something possibly there. And sure enough, as we just crest the hill, there's my disc in the basket.
Congratulations.
I took it. I took an ace. I took a 1. It's like, that's pretty damn cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I don't know if the rest of the card thought it was as cool as I did, of course. That's we're battling. But it was pretty cool. Side note, I decided to dig recently for my box of Comets, which I used to throw quite a bit way back in the day. I didn't have any of those, but Nate Heinold had given me a Jawbreaker Ledgestone, special edition Ledgestone Jawbreaker Comet. I pulled it out that morning, and I was like, I'm going to go throw this in practice. I threw it a few times. I really liked how it flew. Well, that ended up being the one I aced with that afternoon. I like the disc. Let's just say that.
Did you end up winning the event?
Well, just wait.
Oh, boy.
So that's hole 3. We started on, hole 19 or so. You had to play through 24 and then obviously 3 out to 20. Get all the way through. I have a case of the, hey, let's not make the 12-footers, but then make the 40-footer uphill around a tree with a death rollaway. I made that. I made the ace. I made a few 35 and 40-footers. 12 feet, not so much. I had a few 10-footers that like barely made it in. I had a case of like weird yips that second round. And sure enough, it comes down to the final hole. I know it's close. It's a downhill, relatively easy to get to. David, my closest competitor, who I was tied with, literally is leaning up against the pole. He throws. He's leaning up against the pole on the final hole. I throw to about 18 feet deep. And I don't know exactly the score. I just know we're really close, and it's in my advantage of some kind, you know. And sure enough, high right chain, and it falls into the basket for the birdie. I take the birdie. I have gotten him by 1.
So you won.
Until we walk all the way back up to find out the second card, Dustin Kozik, who he thinks we last battled in 99. Dustin tells me that we get it all figured out, the staff has me excited thinking I've won. Dustin says otherwise. And Dustin shot a 12 and a 10 to be at 22. I myself had shot a 16 and a 6. We're tied.
Ooh.
It continues. We both agree we're going to split the money. The TD's, good with that. Doesn't care about the money. Of course, you have to play it off first in terms of that for the playoff.
And what division is this?
What's that?
What division are you playing?
This is Masters, Pro Masters.
Yep.
And we go to the first hole, and we're all agreed on everything. And sure enough, I put it, 10 feet away. He doesn't, and I win.
Well done.
It was cool because there ultimately was an ace. There was some drama. There was a lot of missed putts. There was a playoff. It had a little, it had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Come on. So here's what I'll say. Thank you to all of the gracious people I met, talked to, signed a couple autographs, had some pictures, and a lot of fun. My card mates were fun. The course is fun. It's just all around, and everybody says that, and I'm always calling them out, like, of course you had fun, you won. I would have had fun had I not won. It was just, it was a really good time and a great event to be at. So thank you to you guys, everyone down there from the club and from the event. It's a course that, because it's short and technical, it's a course that if I ever have an open weekend to go play golf anywhere, I would love to compete there more because of the style of course. I don't throw that far. So short and technical is definitely more fun when you go about it.
You shot 990 and 950 rated golf.
Yeah, so Paul, you're 988 at the USDGC. You have a broken ankle. I've got a big stomach. I don't care. No?
I don't
Does that work?
I don't think it works that way.
I told him last night after that post that I was going to rub it in his face, that I whooped him.
But did you?
Okay, maybe not, but it was a lot of fun, good time, and yeah, that's what I can say about that. Sounds more exciting than the USDGC. We had a playoff. We at least, we did that. Good to know. Did you just have the stats up? It was also, I feel good playing 990. I'm just going to throw that out there. Call it a pat on my own back or not. Like, it to know that I hadn't touched a disc in over a week, and then before that I hadn't touched a disc in months, it felt really good to go out and have actually a really solid round of golf. I'll take a 990 rated round of golf any day. I don't know who wouldn't. When it was all said and done, my score on the day looks like it would have tied for second in Open as well. And of course, it was, we have similar rated players and whatnot, so not really a big deal there. But it was a lot of fun. To see a Pro Masters division of 10, though, that's what I thought was cool.
Very solid.
Open division had 11. Pro Masters division had 10. I was expecting 4. So that I thought was also a lot of fun and really cool to see. Got to play with Norman and half the field practically.
I was going to say, he probably played with most of the field.
A lot of fun. Did I beat Avery? No, Avery wasn't at that event, but I would have beat him. No, maybe not.
Probably not.
Okay, I wouldn't have.
Let's do a giveaway.
All right. We're going to do the Patreon one first?
We can do the Patreon giveaway
I
first.
love it.
So, again, as we said, we thank you every week for being a Patreon supporter. If you are a Patreon supporter, you are entered into this particular giveaway, or if you went to the secret part of the website, which I can't remember what it is right now, but if you were listening a day or a week or 2 weeks ago, then you probably know what it is. I'll think of it maybe in another week or two. Ultimately, there are 208. I need to pull up my random.org. 208 people eligible for this particular giveaway.
Yanni Mealy, thank you, if that's how you pronounce it. We do appreciate the super chat that just came in a little while ago. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, we do.
And a number of super chatters, as well as Brad Aarons says, I'm not a patron sub, but put me in the drawing. Thanks. So we appreciate it very much, Brad, and all of our super chatters here tonight.
All right, so 208. Terry, do we have a number?
We do. I think you'd have to be silly not to go with my my first round. 990. Punch in 900.
990? I could just go with one,
Okay.
the position you took.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do one generate. It says number 62. 62, let me scroll up to 62. Enzo Pedacci. Congratulations, Enzo Pedacci.
Enzo. Awesome.
Enzo Pedacci
is getting the disc member box of the month, whatever that was. We appreciate it. It doesn't even get opened from us. We just pass it right along to you.
Literally just going to put a sticker right over our name and ship it out. Let us know if it's something that you love, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So you can thank disc member for that. If you'd like to become a disc member, right? That's the way you put it. Disc member.
If you want to become a disc member,
I'm going to become a disc member. It is $25 a month, and you get at least a $40 value every month with usually a disc, a shirt, sometimes stickers. I've seen can openers, U-disc memberships. Sometimes I believe dry handbags. I've seen whatever brand they happen to use. So all those things, every month, a different disc. So that's pretty cool. And I think they've got other models where you can get multiple discs if you want, other different subscription models. So go ahead, let them know SmashBoxx sent you, discmember.com.
Thank you so much, disc member. They've been supporting us for quite some time here, and very gracious with giving us those boxes that we turn around and give away. So, and as always, also thank you to Disc Baron, who is comes in as our digital green room sponsor week in and week out. Supports also my post-production coverage, has supported our live, and then all our Patreons supporters, in addition to the super chatters. So thank you to all of you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a little bit of time to do this. Johnny's got a new special gadget, so we're going to triple check that everything's working well. But, wow, Tiffers 4201 is on it. You're reading my mind. And here's what you need to do. If you want to win and have this basket drop ship straight to your house, what we need you to do is please just put in the comments, the YouTube chat right now, MVP. This is the YouTube chat. Just type in the 3 letters, MVP. And Johnny's got a nifty scraping privacy gadget here.
It's the Nightbot, which I know Disc Golf Answer Man uses. There's a lot of streamers that use this. It helps do things like prizes and moderation and things like that.
There you guys. Holy cow, look at you.
I see 34 eligible users right now. 40.
Coming in hot.
41. You can enter as many times as you want, but it only counts you once. 47. It has to, it doesn't matter if it's uppercase, lowercase. It just has to be MVP.
And it just counts you once. Wow, what a great tool you got there, Johnny.
It is pretty cool. We have 50 eligible users right now. So thanks, everybody, for joining us live.
We're going to let this run for, a few more minutes.
Yep.
And then at some point, we will officially cut it off, and then we will randomly grab one of these people.
Yeah, we just hit this roll it button, and then it'll actually pop up in the chat who wins.
Seriously?
Yeah, we don't even have to do anything.
Oh, my gosh. How do I cheat the system?
I don't know. That's the problem. I can't even lie as you tell somebody who won.
Matthew.
Right? Enzo. Just kidding.
Matthew Swanson trying to get an extra. It won't count it, but most valuable podcast. We like that.
58 eligible users right now.
This is awesome. Does this work for scraping comments in
No.
any capacity for like the YouTube like post-production video or anything like that? It's just pulling from chat.
And it's literally live right now. So if I were to refresh this page, I would lose everything and they'd have to start over. So I'm not going to leave the page.
MVP would like that. You just keep, everyone has to keep writing MVP.
Certainly. 59.
How many are we up to?
59 right now.
Wow, we got Mekwon Oshkosh logged in.
Do they live between Mekwon and Oshkosh?
I'm baffled.
They dating someone?
Red Arrow Park? What are you doing? Mekwon Oshkosh. A little Red Arrow action. It's probably John Turlap. He's up watching right now. Okay, probably
John Turlap is up watching.
All right, so again, we're going to let that run.
There's 60.
Whoa, Yanni says $5 if you're both wearing long pants. Oh, yes, we got to stand up. I do have mine pulled up because I was a little warm, but.
Get that leg up there, Tara.
These are my champ pants.
I'll show you my champagne.
I wore these this weekend, and I washed them, and I'm gonna wear them every day this week until I play my next tournament. These are.
That's creepy.
Yes, it is.
What did we just do for $5? How cheap are we? Hey, $5? Yeah, look, show me your pants. Pervert. Pervert.
Withdraw 50 from them. Don't let them just give 5. Dude's got on pants. Yeah, I guess. I think we're officially sellouts.
Oh, yeah.
What will Terry and Johnny do for $5? I feel like that's part of a different podcast.
We didn't even question. We didn't even converse.
I know.
We both just stood up like, $5? Sure.
Oh,
wow.
Dance, monkey, dance.
62 eligible users right now.
I feel bad for all the audio-only listeners that missed that sweet action of us showing off our calves and pants. All right, I'm going to check my notes. I actually made some notes. There were so many things going on this weekend, but I think we covered everything major in the regular show. I do have one quick follow-up, and you're going to see plenty of it anyway. And I think they've also been reached out to. But the winners from the SmashBox Chains for Charity contest, they've already been contacted, but we want to follow up from what Jay Redding said last weekend in that he was going to draw. Were those $100 gift certificates? I don't remember what they were.
I don't recall.
They are now, because I just said it out loud. No, I don't recall what they were, but I know he was giving away gift certificates. James Ruth out of Virginia and Ryan Pilcher out of Illinois. That's at least what Jay had sent me today. And I think there's going to be some more giveaways or something going on here on the 13th. He's doing something else live.
Fantastic.
Sounds like a live show or a live giveaway or something else. Ryan
says $200.
What?
Woot woot.
Was it really $200? That's awesome.
That's great. Congratulations, Ryan.
Oh. He texted him today. So it pays to give?
It pays to give.
And you, Jordan Castro, is who you went after last week. And $19. And then I had claimed, for Chains for Charity, I'd claimed the 2 FPO players, as I love to support our FPO, Kristen and Paige. Take a guess. I've already paid. I'm on top of it. Already paid them.
I'm gonna guess
paid
$17.
Nope. Short. I had to dip into my ace pool winnings to do it, but $24.
$24.
Super happy. I've already made the donation. Most of you have probably already received an email from Jay saying, okay, here's what you pledged. Here's then what they're hoping for you to be giving back. But it ultimately for me came down to $24 when it was all said and done. Oh, I got the ace pool, by the way, was $5 this weekend, which makes sense. It's a relatively short course. They handed me the ace pool money because I had got one, and I counted out, and it was 60. And I said, how many aces were there? They're like, there were 5. It's like, oh. Darn.
It's a relatively short course.
It was a very short course. But I got it from the longs, blind, uphill Anheuser. But it counts the same as...
Still counts the same.
100-footer. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
All right, I think we're ready to give this MVP basket away. Once again, you got it one more chance. If you haven't put in the chat MVP, please go ahead and do that.
Oh, Seth Steinway's trying to really tempt me. Oh, you're really going for it. $5 if you rough up your hair, Terry.
I don't think it's possible. Anyway. All right, looks like we're doing 62 eligible users.
62. Okay, well, now they're still coming.
63. Oh yeah, don't.
Come on, guys. Yuli is going to pick up Terry for Discraft sponsorship.
Look at that.
Maybe tiny side note, I was way cooler before Yuli or Macbeth or any of these other youngsters. I was sponsored by Discraft 2005 and 2006. And then Innova actually made me an offer in 2007, and I was sponsored with them until I left to go to Legacy in 2013 or 2014.
68 eligible users. All right, everybody. Thank you very much to MVP for this giveaway. I'm excited to hit this roll it button.
Let me double check while they pull in your last few. I want to word it exactly or know exactly how it was.
Okay.
We're good to go, he said. Also be willing to give away a basket on your podcast. Axiom Pro, any color.
Cool.
You tell us who the winner is. We drop ship it. That's not how Steve talks, but that's how I read
You
it.
don't know that's not how he talks.
I do. I know Steve.
I know.
An
So do I.
Axiom Pro is what you will be winning. So thank you so much to MVP. Please, people, thank them as you're watching the coverage this weekend. And Sarah Holcomb's already said that she wants to be part of the commentary. We'll see if we can get some more involved. All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Should we hit this little roll it button and see what pops up?
Okay.
I hope this works. Otherwise, we're going to look like jerks.
All right. There it is.
And roll it.
Oh, and it's going to spit out the name for us?
Spaceman Spiff 23.
Done.
Done. You win. Congratulations, Spaceman Spiff 23. Congratulations. I didn't have to do anything. I said hit a button.
That's
it shows me
pretty
that.
darn
It
easy.
pops it up there. Spaceman Spiff 23 still on the board.
There he is.
Yes.
All right. Send me an email. Terry at prodiscgolfer.com. I don't mind sharing that with the world. Terry, Terry, at prodiscgolfer.
If you have to, take a little screenshot to prove it's you, that you're logged in.
That would be great. And no, I'm not changing my email to Terry at promastersdiscgolfer.com anytime soon. But Terry at prodiscgolfer.com. So thank you very much. And of course, again, thank you.
Subscribed
MVP.
since April 28th, 2016. So thank you, buddy.
We appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
All right, what else do we have on the board? Anything exciting? Any other notes? Things to Darren asked, how did your son do? Was it his first ever swim meet?
It was his first ever swim meet. I was there on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
I showed up, and first thing that happens is they're running like 40 minutes behind because they have it in sessions. So the early session is the older kids. Then they've kind of got like our age group in the afternoon and whatever. And apparently this is a brand new pool with a brand new timing system. So I showed up and every seat was taken because the other session hadn't left yet. So people are filling it in and out. He was, how do I want to put this other than slow?
Wow.
Yeah, he was slow. He was very, I need to drill it into him for his swim meet that he needs to go. The whole point is a race. Because
is he just like having fun?
No, not at all. He's focused so much on his stroke, like making sure that
Oh.
he's doing it properly, that he's not necessarily going for speed yet, which is what they kind of teach them. They're like, listen, we're going to work on your on all the proper techniques first. You know, arm in the water, push forward, bend it 90 degrees, and push down. Snap out the back, come all the way through. And they drill that into him. They don't drill into them, swim fast, little boy. So he jumps off the blocks, mediocre, still better than his friend who basically went in feet first. Swear to God. And he swam fine. He did a 50 in about a minute, 58 seconds actually. But it was just like, all I kept thinking is like, I know you can swim faster, but he's just precise. Like he's doing what he's doing. And I'm just like, all right, we'll get there. Not a big deal. So he ended up, he did 50 free, 50 back, and 50 breast. He disqualified himself out of the 50 breast for, I'm assuming, a wrong kick, maybe off the wall, which is very frequent because you have to do a specific kick. It happens to a lot of kids when they first start out. So, yeah, there's a person at the end of the pool watching, and there's 2 timers that are on the regular side ready to tag your time if you don't touch the wall properly, or if the mat
When you say,
affect.
did you say kick the wall or tag the wall? What'd you say? You don't think he did what properly though?
I think when he kicked off of the wall on his way back, I think he did a normal kick instead of your breaststroke kick, which will disqualify you. That
Really?
Or maybe he touched the ground and I couldn't see from my perspective.
You can't touch the ground?
No.
Are you disqualified at any point during the race if you touch the ground?
Yeah. If you touch the bottom of the pool, you're disqualified.
I mean, I just assumed it would be like
I mean,
a bad idea because it's going to be
slow
slow.
you down,
But
yes.
I didn't know. I've clearly never been a competitive swimmer. My girlfriend in high school was, but anyway, I had no idea. So you can't touch the ground. I mean, it makes sense. I can't imagine why you'd want to anyway, but I had no idea that would disqualify you.
Correct. So I think that was where he messed up.
And is there somebody always watching maybe this answers that question of they're watching your technique, because if you vary too much from the intended stroke, you get disqualified as well. Like, oh, hey, that wasn't enough of a butterfly.
Well, I mean, yes, you have to do a specific.
What if you're just
kick.
really bad at form?
And that could be what
and you
disqualified him
you.
in
Like,
the breaststroke.
Okay.
It could be. I mean, he's actually not bad at that, but he's horrible at fly. He just doesn't have the kick and the body power yet to really get him up above the water, to get his arms over. But everything else he's doing pretty well at. So it was fun. It was interesting. They were so efficient with their races. I was actually kind of shocked, because going back to high school, everyone would race. You'd get out of the pool. Everyone would kind of lounge around. They'd call the next group. This particular setup, you raced, and then, like, you didn't even get out of the pool before the next group started. You sat there underneath of the blocks while they jumped over you, and then you got out, which was really funny, because
heckling.
One of the boys had a problem getting out of the pool because he's a little bit chunkier, and so he couldn't pull himself up. So they had to quickly like
drag him
kind
out
of
the
get
way.
him to the side, because the person he took almost an entire minute, well, not quite a minute, probably about 40 seconds of the next group coming up, and all I kept thinking is like, dude, you got to get out of the pool. You're gonna get in that kid's way.
Wow.
So ultimately, it was enjoyable, and it's something I'm gonna be stuck, quote unquote, doing many weekends for the next at least 8 months.
Wow, you need to clearly talk to John's wife, the swim coach, Vicky. She knows.
I know, I'm sure.
All right, I'm going to read through a few things off the board to try and get caught up there. First of all, thank you. Somebody said Tiffer should have won for guessing the MVP ahead of time. That would have been great. Yanni said, also then followed up with another super chat after we showed off our pants. Thank you. Very gracious of you. Snow Disc Golf said, well, no, swim fast, little boy. Yeah, Johnny V's next book. That's a good idea. I was going to read, I apologize. I was reading down the board and there was one that jumped right out at me. Is there a 30-second rule in swimming? Okay, let me rephrase that then. Going off of that idea, what is another obvious rule or regulation or infraction or something that not everyone would even know? Let me ask this first. I think I know the answer. If you jump early, you're automatically disqualified. Like there's no second,
In high school, we got, I believe,
like a warning of sorts.
I think you got a warning if you jumped early. Some of the other rules, and they haven't talked too much about the boys with this, because again, it's not really the focus yet. When you push off of the wall, I believe it's for backstroke, you have to come up before, like, I think, is it before your whole body crosses where the flags are? You can't stay underwater that long. You actually have to come up at some point. Or is it fly?
So you can't just stay under as long as you want?
Correct.
Oh.
Like at some point.
Seems like that if that's your advantage, you should be able to use it.
I mean, you can only go so long.
Well,
but anyway, yes, there are specific rules as far as when you have to come up. Obviously, specific flip turns or wall touching the wall for different strokes. If you're doing a breaststroke, you don't do a flip turn. You tag the wall and turn around. But for backstroke and freestyle, and no, I'm sorry, is it for fly? For fly, you obviously have to touch the wall as well and not do a flip turn.
The other question just came back to me, which was, you said there's two people timing you.
Yep, two officials. Which the funny thing was, I noticed when the heavier kid couldn't get out of the water, the timers were just looking at him. They would not help him. At one point,
some kind of liability?
It might be. At one point, there was another kid who was having a problem getting out, and one of the other competitors, probably like a year or two older than him, helped him out of the water. But the timers were just sitting there like, sorry, dude, we're not touching you. And I don't know if it's a liability. I don't know what the deal is, but I just thought, you're not going to help that poor kid get out of the water?
I would think that'd be funny if there was next event, if they have a timer just timing him. Okay, hey, it only took you 2 minutes to get out. That'd be jerkish. Okay, no, my question about the timers work, because now I really need to know this stuff, is there's 2 of them. Do they average the 2 times?
Well, I believe they would average the 2 times if you didn't touch the pad, which stops which is attached. And most people, like I saw my son one time, he didn't reach for the pad. When he came up, he hit the top of the pad, which is like on the edge of the pool. And I don't know if that recognized it or not. I assume it did, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, I've got so many questions, and yes, I saw a comment.
You're welcome to come to one of the meets. It's
because as I saw one of these comments on here, and I'm all too familiar with something about being in there with the humidity.
It actually wasn't.
That's the one thing I remember about going to any meets or being in any of the pool stuff was just the absolutely disgusting humidity in being in there. The few times I went,
I was kind of surprised it actually wasn't too bad at Germantown High School, which is where I was.
I think, is that pool brand new there?
Brand new.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is why they had like the 35-minute delay, because it's a new pool, new timing system, all the stuff that they couldn't quite get functional properly. But yes, brand new. I think the next meet is in like 3 weeks.
All right, I'm going to keep moving down the board. Am I only purchasing pay-per-view if SmashBoxx is doing the coverage? I am only purchasing. Oh, thank you, Jason. Yeah. Johnny and I did briefly just touch on the general idea of 2020. I think right now, and this isn't a precursor to anything other than 2020 hasn't been worried about in a lot of ways. I know, well, Johnny had a rant of his own last week, but outside of that rant, there's a lot of things for 2020 live, post-production, teams. Like, we literally just saw the official schedule today.
That's the first I'm seeing of it.
Yeah, I knew...
Like, I knew some of the NT things that were happening behind the scenes. We'd gotten some hints. But I didn't honestly know anything about the Disc Golf Pro Tour schedule. I assumed it was going to be similar, but the fact that it's identical, other than a few weekends shifted, that's kind of a surprise to me.
Brad says, I'd pay for SmashBoxx, just saying.
Well, that's good to hear. And
how much do you want to pay? Just 4 to 10 grand a weekend sound good? Because if we get like 4 to 10 of you, then we're golden.
We're golden.
It'd be easy.
I had this discussion with somebody because they were talking about pay-per-view. I hope that that's the model that we end up going with. Not us particularly, but that disc golf goes with. And I'm not just talking live. I'm talking post-production as well. I truly think that this was... USDGC probably would have gotten more pay-per-view if the live wasn't free the next day. I think we discussed this last week. You may have seen another 30, 40% increase in whatever that number is. I would go on a limb and say that there's a better than 50-50 chance that next year USDGC puts all the media behind a paywall. Post-production and live. At least maybe for a day or two. Like day one comes out and you can't get it next day. Maybe it comes out a day later or a day after that. It would... I think it would push a few people to definitely subscribe. And as far as the Pro Tour goes, I don't know what's going to happen, but I wouldn't mind that model for us either. There's been no talks of it. They haven't even put out the RFP yet, which they said they're going to do, and I'm not upset or rushing them or anything.
Oh, you were last week. Get on it.
I wasn't upset. Not the Pro Tour.
I know.
That's a different thing. So we're going to see what the Pro Tour wants to do once they get their RFP out. I think at that point we can kind of look at it like, oh, what are your goals? And then we can start to probably discuss. I'm sure Todd and Jeff have a plan, and once we find out, because I truly don't know yet, we'll start making decisions at that point then. Because imagine this. If the USDGC, let's just say they got 4,000 viewers, 4,000 paid subscribers. Yep. I would have to assume that if the Pro Tour went to a pay-per-view model, they would get close to that for an entire season. That would be a guess. Or even if you got 80% of that, let's say you got 3,000, and your yearly subscription was $60 or $70. Nothing too outrageous, about $5 a month, maybe a little more. I mean, let's just say what's $60 times 3,000? That's $180,000. That covers a pretty good media chunk of your year, and maybe extra. And at that point, you can probably take that extra money, put it back into the tour, whether that's in another employee that's paid to drive around, whether that's someone who, or whether eventually maybe if you get more people, that goes back to the tour. Imagine being able to say, oh yeah, because of media fees, there is $5,000 added to every event.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that I want to see happen, and I think would benefit the tour and help it grow. And as the tour grows, the media can grow, and then we can cover 2 cards or 3 cards. And those are the things that can eventually help expand the coverage and the media quality to limits that maybe we're set to right now. I don't know. Or maybe a corporate sponsor comes in and says, don't charge people. We're going to give you $100,000 for the year or $200,000 for the year, and we'll take care of media. We want a lot of commercials and keep it free.
Yeah.
That's another option. So we'll see what happens. I mean, at this point, everything's on the table and nothing is off the table.
Yeah, I was thinking about, obviously all of the Pro Tour venues have no problems having live broadcasting. When we look at the national tour venues, you're still looking at a place like Beaver State, presumably not able to have any live coverage at it. The fact that the Masters Cup wraps up on the golf course, we haven't really seen a good test out there, so it's unproven as to whether or not you can have live coverage out at that course. We know it struggled on the regular course. The golf course might be a little bit more available, and at some point, are we ever going to see the Masters Cup? I know this sounds crazy. Will we ever see the Masters Cup maybe go to all 3 rounds on the golf course, not utilizing the original course? I'm not starting that rumor. I'm just throwing it out as anything is possible. Music City, we don't know. Of course, we talked about how long and seemingly open it is. We could assume there's good cellular coverage around there, but we don't know that for a fact, of course. And then, we're not in Vegas, and at the Texas event, we could maybe assume that there's going to be good coverage there, cellular-wise, but we don't know that. And, of course, GBO is the other event. So, there's still, no matter how you look at it, there's still a few events that you're likely not seeing live coverage at almost no matter what happens. There are going to remain certain limitations. So, all right, I'm going to read a few more actual questions that I did see in here. And one of those is, where online has the best disc golf discussion? I'll just say, I feel like it comes down to like everything else, what are you looking for?
Mm-hmm. I think the best discussions probably happen on DG Course Review right now. I think
how moderated is that, if at all? Just either the entire site.
It doesn't really, and that's one of the reasons I think it's some of the best discussions. It doesn't have to be moderated. I rarely see. I got scolded once. I think I called someone an idiot, and someone said you can't do that. And I don't know if I got put in a timeout or something for a day.
Naughty.
It was a couple of years ago, and someone was being dumb, and they're like, you can't call names. But I've never seen people get moderated, and maybe you don't see it. Maybe they just vanish for a couple days and then they come back. But I will say that, like any online thing, there you get people whose opinions differ, and who opinions I kind of think, oh gosh, this guy. But ultimately, usually pretty good discussions are had. Reddit, I don't mind Reddit, but there's such a volume of people that I think that the noise. The signal to noise ratio is too high. I think you see a lot of people that are just out for blood.
Sure.
And you have the occasional people out there that are like, no, I think this is a really good, and you go back and forth. There's a few Discords out there, and some of those are okay. I belong to one that I enjoy because I've gotten to know the people that are out there. And you understand what to expect. You understand this guy is the troll and he's doing it on purpose, and you kind of chuckle along and you give him a hard time, but ultimately they're harmless. And I think that's kind of, I'm not part of a lot of Facebook discussion groups, and I'm sure there's some really good ones out there. I don't know of any that I feel like I need to be a part of that particular Facebook discussion group.
I will say, because of the various rules and the community that you surround yourself with, like the general disc golf, I think there's a disc golf debate group that I feel like can very quickly go off the rails. The times that you see so many things that are repetitive or similar to something that was just debated a day ago, a week ago, 3 hours ago, it becomes just way too flooded and diluted, and rarely do good discussions come out of it. I mean, I wish some people would just use a search function once in a while, because it would eliminate so much of that stuff. And anytime you have, I do like the Facebook version a little bit better, generically speaking, because there's a shred more accountability when a somewhat your name is somewhat tied. And now I know you could still get around that on Facebook, and you could have a relatively anonymous, presence on Facebook, and you can get away with that for the most part. I understand that, of course you can. But when you go to a YouTube, comment section, you go to a Reddit, and you can be 100% anonymous in every possible way and have no one ever tie to who you are personally, that's, of course, those are the places that you're going to more often find just the vile, relentless, scrupulous, just, yeah, I don't know.
Darren brings up a good point, or a good point. Dixon's group
I was
going to
say that
is a really good group.
I feel like that's where logical discussion can happen,
and it does.
Respectful.
It's respectful and logical. People have differing opinions, but there's very little moderation, because there doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say about Facebook.
It's a very good place on Facebook. And that's the On the Box Facebook discussion area.
Terry, are you coming out to the Women's United States Disc Golf Championships here in Sacramento? I have no idea. I would just go ahead and assume that the PDGA will again grant, I don't want to say blindly grant, but will intentionally grant Jomez coverage of that event, as they've done the last 2 years. Does that leave any budget or room for any other live or post-production? I can't speak to that. I really don't know. I've been a huge, FPO supporter at every level, from, C tier and leagues and tournaments all the way up to things that I've covered, but I have no idea if I will be at any part. If I can, it fits into the schedule, there's some budget to make it happen. As usual, I even forego budgetary concerns usually for the sake of trying to make things happen. So, but we'll see. Hoping is going to get you there, JVD, talking about probably your son. Nico's Albatross Live was gold. Yep, we talked about that earlier. It was absolutely awesome. USDGC being a paywall gets maybe 3,000. Well, and that's what we, there's nothing more than speculation. No one's given us numbers that we know for sure. Jamie Thomas referenced 2,200 at one point. We don't know if that was the full extent of the paid subscribers. There's nothing more than speculation here.
Again, if there's 2,200 concurrent, there's no way that, let's just say, everyone who paid was watching it that minute.
Correct.
So I would guess 80% for that particular time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that more people didn't buy
still
just to
buy
watch
in
the
in
final
the next few
day,
days, yeah.
the final 2 days or something, after they hear, oh no, it was really good day one. Then they think, oh, okay, then I'm going to buy it because
I heard it was good,
because they heard it was good, or they were questioning the first day, or things like that. So I think it's a minimum of 3,000 minimum, and I would be willing to bet up towards 4.
Are you happy that Delaware is still in NT? I think Delaware is a great event on a great course. I think that the last few years, being the week after the World Championships, has maybe I don't want to say diluted the field because they've been great fields, but there's just a little hangover, world's hangover that's happened by the competitors and everything else. It's obviously a great course. They are clearly meeting payout requirements, and they have a lot of really hardworking, heartfelt, like people that are out there to support it to make it happen. So I've got no problem with that.
Something that we didn't discuss really, and was the playoff potential at USDGC.
Oh gosh, we skipped way over that.
17. If there would have been a playoff, they would have gone to play 17, then 18, and then Old Hole 1.
Huh? What? This
Yeah.
word keeps coming up for me tonight.
I understand going to play 17,
Of course.
and then you play 18 because
Of
it's
course.
next in flow. And I get that you want to somehow get back to 17, but having the players play Old Hole 1 that they didn't play at all during the entire event, no practice, no nothing. You just throw them on there for a convenient way to get them back to 17. Makes no sense. And ultimately, I don't think it should be allowed. I don't think you should be able to just throw random it's at that point it's a safari hole because or a temp hole
Mhm.
because no one's played it. That's crazy. That's asinine. That's silly. That's goofy. I would never do that. I would sooner have them walk all the way back to 17 and replay it than play a hole that nobody had any practice on. Probably didn't even know that was even an option. Unless they were told at the players' meeting. But even then, that's kind of late to practice that
Yeah.
hole in the off
That's
chance
true.
that you get a chance at it. So it's a minor thing. We didn't see it. But for future reference, USDGC, don't do that.
All right. And maybe we could be dead wrong as we're about to take a look right here. I'm in the competition manual for disc golf events. Except where noted, final ties for first place in any division or for the reduction must be broken by sudden death play. Sudden death play shall begin with hole number 1 unless a different hole or series of holes is designated by the tournament director prior to the start of the tournament. So all good. They could have easily said, hey, in the event of a playoff, here's our holes. Under no circumstance should any other methods, such as hot round, head-to-head scores, etc., be used to break a tie for first place cash, so on and so forth. So it doesn't division or reduction fields that should on hole number 1. Flex starts. I'm trying to read anything else. A tie for first caused by necessity of calling an event due to dangerous conditions, sudden death, cannot be held during the last day of regularly scheduled rounds.
Yeah, if you haven't read it by now where they talk about starting on hole 1, I don't think it's in there because what's to stop them from saying, okay, cool, you're going to play from this deck that we made for the monster crushing thing over to one of those 50 baskets that's across the river, across the pond, I mean. Like, you just making up a hole, which is and I know hole 1 isn't truly made up, but it is for this event now. Just, it makes zero sense to me. I don't know how you could justify that.
Yeah, and the reason why it's being brought up, and I don't know if someone who brought it up in the chat to remind you, because I heard it during the broadcast, as I'm sure many of you did, and I immediately lost it. I was like, that I don't know how that's possible. Like you're saying, I get 17 and 18, but hole 1 literally doesn't exist and never did this year.
No one played it. That's what we're saying.
I was surprised. Very, very surprised. And I don't see anything in the rules. I apologize. I'm in the competition manual on the PDGA website under rules, and I'm on the ties section. And it says,
I'm guessing there's nothing in there.
I feel like there should be some form of clarification.
I mean, it could be. You could talk to...
Because otherwise you could say at the beginning of the tournament, hey, everyone, just so you know, if there's a tie at the end of this tournament, we're going to go out and we're going to play from the drop zone of this hole to this random pin, and we're going to play that 100 times over. Like, no, because that's actually a hole, though, but it's a drop zone. That's still more of a hole than a made-up one. I don't know.
It was just a goofy situation. Thankfully, we didn't run into it. It didn't
No harm, no foul,
so
to speak.
Thankfully, nothing happened. But that is, it popped in my head when someone said something on the board, and I think it would have been crazy.
Darren says, yeah, it's weird. We're just all allowed to watch and attend most of these disc golfs free of charge.
So here's a question. Hole 17.
Which pin?
No. It would be in the pin it is. If the first person who tees off doesn't make the island, do they just throw again like in the tournament?
That continues to be the same conversation about what the teeing order is in the first place, right? Whatever's played during the tournament should be played during that playoff.
Because that
whatever that rule is.
At that point, that's a huge advantage for whoever goes second.
Which is funny because the person that goes first, typically in a playoff, is determined by whoever had the previous hot round.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you're saying, that could be considered a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, watching someone throw OB like the first time, then you're like, cool, I'm just going to lay up because at worst I'm going to tie them.
Yeah.
Now, if they throw OB twice, then you're like, oh, cool, I win this. Like, there's no way. So that comes to another thing. Hole 17 has to change. It has to. You cannot make someone tee multiple times in a row. It's not fair.
How do they do it in golf?
I have no idea, but I don't know if they do something like that in golf. You have to let them go to the back of the tee. Because if there were two people, again, if you have two people going into that round tied, and the guy in front of you suddenly throws OB twice, you win. I mean, ultimately, you should. You should lay it up and do whatever. It should be tee, move to the back of the box. Tee. It should rotate.
I have to assume that as I'm now finally pulling up the caddy guide, I would be willing to bet that it specifically states, because I feel like this question has been asked many times or has been referenced, when can a player proceed to the drop zone after 3 throws, blah, blah, blah.
You're penalizing someone for having the box. Like, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Well, no, to be fair, you could flip that around and say it's to their advantage still. They can throw first, they put it on the island, and they put that much more pressure on the next player. You could look at it that way, too. But I of course, I understand and agree with what you're saying, but
I just think it's such a silly rule to do it that way. I really do. And don't you think that there is now, is that so the players can dial it in, so to speak? If you miss it, you just get to go again because maybe you can throw it a little harder, as opposed to waiting, 45 or 50 seconds till everyone tees off, then you have to throw it again. I don't know. Like, is that a holdover from when you could just throw it as many times as you want? And where we saw people taking 20s on that hole.
Mm-hmm.
Now at least you throw 3 times, you go to the drop zone. Yeah. Some of those things are just.
I am looking for it in the USDGC caddy book, and I'm guessing that it's been asked before. It should be, at least. And I would be shocked if it's not somewhere here in the caddy book.
It's probably right on hole 17's description.
I looked there.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Huh. So maybe someone can assist or help or make a clarification. Actually, if it's not in the caddy book, then in theory it should be in the regular PDGA rulebook. Chuck Kennedy. Do we have to call on him?
It's a little late for the Chuck Kennedy call.
Chuckster. All right. Well, if anyone has
maybe
an idea.
Maybe we'll hear more about this, and we'll fill you guys in next week.
All right, David John, good to hear you and see you. Watching live disc golf is 3+ hours on me for a weekend watching TV while wanting to be throwing instead. I hear you. People are talking about you loving Reddit. Yeah, again, I've seen a lot of good out there, and I've seen just as much bad. I'm just getting better at ignoring most of it. There's a lot of people that just want to go out and pick fights. I mean, start a podcast if you want to pick a fight. I mean,
it worked for me. Awkward.
It's irrelevant now since it didn't happen. But yes, that again, speaking to how they would play it, I totally agree with that. Danielle Reynoso, huge smashy, and hype man, official hype man of UDisc, states the players on the tee all seem to know that they had to throw consecutive shots. Imagine if the scores were wrong in UDisc. Reddit hates spoilers. Yeah,
forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, but Yurki says if your throw does not change your lie, you go immediately next. So that apparently
is that a ground rule that's stated there?
I don't know if it's a ground rule or it sounds like it's a PDGA rule.
Which is funny because in slightly, I'll say a little more casual play, let's just say you and I are at a tournament, I've thrown a shot, and it's OB or whatever happens, and my lie's not about to change, and I'm visibly frustrated, annoyed, whatever. It's not uncommon for someone else on your card to be like, hey, man, you want me to throw now? Like, even if it technically would be your time. Like, it's not uncommon for that to happen, I'm saying, but you're saying that person should, in fact, be the one that definitely throws the next shot.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
It's a PDGA rule. But imagine, like, I think of GBO, where you teed from a sidewalk, and I know you don't anymore, but you did, and you throw a big hyzer over, and you need to land over that same sidewalk that follows the path down. You never make it in bounds.
Okay.
In theory, you should just get up and tee right again.
Yeah.
But that's not, nobody does that.
I don't say nobody.
Because most people, or a lot of people, might go up and check if it's in bounds, and everybody throws, check,
Sure.
you come back. I think it's a bad rule. And if that's the rule, that's the rule. I get it. And clearly now I am more up to date on it. But I would be curious to see how many people abide by that as to when they don't move off the tee. Or here's a question: hole 18 at Smugs.
Okay.
We have seen people that crush it off to the right, and they go over the inbound, but they don't come back. Choose just to re-tee. Does that technically hasn't changed your lie, but yet they're teeing off at the end again. They don't go up and do it right away. They've chosen at that point. Is that because they have the choice? Even though if now you choose, or do you have to make that decision immediately? If not, you're breaking the rules and you should be penalized for that. Lots of ifs, ands, and buts here, but just...
I feel like this was something that was likely specified sometime in the last few years to be in the rule book, where it is and how it's stated. Because just exactly as he quoted, I have, of course, found it again on the PDGA rules that if a player is making another throw from the same lie or a rethrow, that player remains next in the throwing order. A rethrow is an additional throw from the same line which is played instead of the original lie.
That makes sense in the field of play, but not on the tee box. Because on the tee box, everybody is out and everybody is in the same position, as opposed to the field of play where you might be out, you're still out. Like on the tee box, you're not technically out.
Yeah, but it says if a player is making another throw from the same lie or a rethrow, that player remains next in the throwing order.
Is the tee box a lie?
It's a rethrow. And yes, your tee would be the lie. Yeah. I think the rule is cut and dry. Whether or not everyone follows it is what you're saying.
Cut and dry.
Yeah, I think it's very cut and dry that it's spelled out the way that it is. All right, well, something to think about, folks, when you're out there. All right, Darren says in the field of play makes sense. If your lie doesn't change, you are still out from the tee. You should definitely go to the back of the box.
So he's saying the same thing I did.
Yeah.
And again, if that's the rule, that's the rule. I think I disagree with the rule, but we obviously will follow it. So keep an eye out next year, Smashies. See how many people you can catch breaking this rule on production.
Pocket says, how exciting would a Final 9 have been this year? Well, there's nothing because
USDGC or Worlds?
Either. And what I'll say to that is, yeah, whether you're speaking of either, the players this year played knowing they're finishing on the 90th hole. So they may have done things very differently than if they assumed they had 9 more holes to go. I think certain risks may or may not have been taken if they knew, okay, we're playing 90 holes, and then the top 4 are moving into a final 9. I mean, I understand what you're saying as to whether or not it could have been exciting, but that's a lot of, again, woulda, coulda, shouldas, and you cannot assume that the players would have all had the exact same mentality finishing up that 5th round if they really already knew there was going to be a final 9. Now, if you're saying throw a final 9 in at the end and don't tell them,
that would be fun.
That would be 100% horrible, but yet still funny at the same time. Yeah, and Disc Golf Nerd is saying, pretty sure if you elect to re-tee, you do it right away, at least I think.
It sounds like you should.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's I guess we can put that to one to rest, and did we learn something new here, Johnny?
Yes.
Did you?
So just a question, and maybe you know, at Smugs, that hole 18,
sure,
you throw. Everybody else you throw out of bounds. Everyone's assuming you're going to take it up at the OB, 50 to 60 feet in front of you.
Sure.
Can you walk up there, stand around, and be like, "Oh my God, this is some horrible footing. I didn't know there was a big pile of rocks here." Can you go back and re-tee? Or have you made your decision? Now you are stuck to that decision.
No, I would. I don't know when you would get technical about when is it your time to throw if somebody wanted to get technical about using your 30 seconds and take that to another situation and just say you play a hole, you get over to it, you get to the bottom of a hill. It takes you 2 minutes to get to the bottom of a hill because it's all the way down a ravine, and you're down there and you're just looking straight up, and you've got 200 feet to go up the hill, and you're absolutely not getting up or down or whatever, and you say, I'm going to do a rethrow, and then you go back to the tee or whatever the case may be. Like, that's exactly a good question as to when can you declare it, and then at what point, does your 30 seconds, so to speak.
And I know there's technically no penalty for teeing out of order.
Okay, yeah, just a courtesy warning.
A courtesy warning. Could your card give you a courtesy warning then? I'm sorry, you went out of order. You were supposed to, if you're re-teeing, you were supposed to go again. Does that give that person an advantage because they decided, I want to see what the guy behind me does? I'm tied with him. I throw OB. I play the rules to my advantage, and I'd be like, well, I'm going to see what he does rather than him seeing me re-tee again. I might go up there. I might not.
Fair enough.
I know these are crazy scenarios that we'll probably never see. But they're scenarios. So anyway, I've had enough for tonight. If you let me sit here too much longer, I'm going to think of more dumb scenarios, and I don't need that.
Postulate that much more. I mean, if you want, we could recap my 48 holes at France Park.
I'm good if we don't.
So am I. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we've given away a basket. I think I've even gotten the confirmation from our winner. I will then pass on
Spaceman Spliff 23.
Yep, exactly. I will pass that on. That will go to MVP. I will be if Sarah and her co-host forget at any point this weekend, plan on liking and commenting on the video, and I will be giving away an MVP disc at least every 9 holes, maybe even more. But for every 9 that I release this weekend, we'll be giving some stuff away. So please make sure that you tune in, and should be really exciting. This is going to be the last time there for the Hall of Fame Classic. So to see who makes the journeys, the track, the Hall of Famers really go out of their way to get together. So the who's who of disc golf Hall of Fame royalty will be at the event this weekend. And I think that in itself helps make for a really special weekend and a lot of fun. So I'm very excited about it. You'll see and hear more from me as I arrive. So for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, this has been SmashBoxxTV's Podcast 268 After Show. Thank you to everyone who joined us, including Paul Ulibarri, all of our Patreon subscribers, and our MVP giveaways, and disc member, and disc baron, and our digital green room. We love you all. We will see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.
Good night.